Hello guys, welcome to the fiction series. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto got harem with Ochako, Momo and Kyoka Jiro? The movie. Huge shout out to AdventReader221 for this story. If you want more awesome fanfiction like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. So without wasting any time, let's get into the video. Taishinori Yagi couldn't help but smile to himself. A tall man, at least 7 feet tall, with an extremely slightly muscular body, with his bones being mostly visible and his lankiness making him have the appearance of a skeleton with some muscle and skin. Long and wild blonde hair, blue eyes surrounded by black instead of white, wearing far too baggy clothes such as a white shirt and green pants with a good belt. Yes, I can't believe I got the last copy that they had. American movies are just the best. I can't wait to get home and watch this. Taishinori spoke to himself under his breath, wife's smile on his skeletal face as he thought of the hour and a half of fun he was going to have watching this movie. It was rare for Japan to have American movies on sale, since it wasn't their primary language, and listening to a movie while reading subtitles just wasn't fun, and hearing the movie get dubbed when words and mouth movements didn't watch wasn't great either. At the ripe age of secret, he just enjoyed watching movies more than nearly any other activity. Realizing he was blocking the exit of the store, he quickly started to walk as a larger bear-like man. Bear-like as in he had the literal appearance of a bear, fur and everything, huffed, and walked past him with a bag of groceries in his clawed hand. Taishinori waved awkwardly with a smile, not meaning to be a bother to the man, taking a step backwards. What the hell? He bumped into a young man, and he quickly turned his head and saw that he had knocked a younger man onto the ground. The boy wore a black coat that was open in the front, showing a white button-up shirt underneath, and black pants that were kept together by a tied-up piece of rope. Also having spiky, wild, blonde hair and bright blue eyes with similar peach skin as himself, Taishinori was a little surprised at the slight resemblance between them only for a moment. He saw that he was knocked an ice cream over and onto the boys, maybe 13 or 14 years old. He wasn't that tall. Coat. I'm sorry, young man, I should have been watching where I was going. Taishinori apologized right away for his actions, and the boy looked up at him. 3 whisker marks on each cheek, odd, but not the oddest physical trait he had seen today alone. The bear man being somebody who looked more odd for one, but nonetheless, he had knocked the boy's snack out of his hand and onto the ground. Damn it, and I just got this coat whatever, now I've got to get another ice cream, the boy stated as he dusted himself off without looking at Taishinori in the slightest, as if he hadn't been the one to do that. That, or because he apologized, the boy had decided to not get too angry at him for doing it. He had to buy the kid a new ice cream at least, since it was his fault this had happened by backstepping into him. Hey, since I caused this, I'll get you another. How about it, young man? Taishinori offered to the boy as he started to walk back to the store. He glanced up at him with a raised eyebrow. I'm good, you apologized, that's enough for me. No use crying over spilled milk, anyway, that was the last of that flavor. Might as well not worry about it, the boy stated as he turned and started to walk down the sidewalk. Taishinori rubbed the back of his head shamefully, since he seemed to be unable to apologize for his actions. He looked down at the boy's hand when he saw some dots of red appearing on the sidewalk. Your bleed, Taishinori started as he looked up at the boy's hand, only to see the scrap he got when he was knocked over was quickly healing as the wound steamed closed. The boy's wound, in seconds, finished healing as he wiped his blood off onto his pants without turning around. Ah, healing Quirk, you can heal. Taishinori silently mused to himself as he watched the boy for only a few more seconds. Quirks. Almost everyone in the world was born with a quirk nowadays, a unique superpower that they could use. While most were inherited by the mother or the father, sometimes you would get a combination of their quirks in the form of a new one. They could be classified under many different types, and it would seem the boy had something that gave him regeneration abilities. Only 20% of the world at this point had no quirk called quirkless, with the vast majority having them. With his whisker-marked cheeks, he either had a transformation-type quirk, or he had inherited a mutation from one of his parents that was unrelated to a quirk. Speaking of quirks, he could only use his quirk for about 5 to 6 hours a day, of which he had already used up his time limit on his quirk. Thankfully, it seemed like a very peaceful day, so he shouldn't need to use his quirk to do any. Boom! Taishinori looked on as the middle of the street exploded, no warning, just a large explosion as one of the cars on the road exploded. 3 people were launched out of the car, their bodies covered in cuts, but looking rather okay for being in an explosion. They had no burns on them, and the youngest person was on fire, but also seemingly okay. He noticed it was a child, about 3 years old. Okay, made sense now. The child had some kind of powerful flame quirk, and they manifested it in the car. The parents had flame quirks, so they were okay with fires, but they had been cut up a little. They wouldn't be okay if they got ran over by one of the cars coming for them though. Shit. Toshinori cursed as he looked around, seeing no nearby heroes who were patrolling this area. He was the only hero in this immediate area, and by the time a hero arrived in a few minutes, those 3 would already be run over by a car. He was forced to watch powerlessly as a car got closer and closer to them as they hit the ground, unable to react in time as they were run over. At least, that is what should have happened with no heroes saving the day. Reiyawa! The sane boy from earlier had seen what had happened, and he ran into the street, even closer to the scene of the explosion that he himself had been. He ran with all the speed his legs could carry him with, cracking the ground with each step. Kid has some power in those things. Reaching the family, he started off by grabbing the dazed mother and throwing her onto the sidewalk. He followed up by kicking the child to the other side of the street, since the child was still on fire, and he couldn't hold the child. His leg was set on fire though by that, and as the car got much closer, he grabbed the father by the collar of his suit, and judo flipped him into the air. All the people in the area either screamed or watched in horror as the boy sacrificed his own life to save the family, because they watched as the boy was slammed into by the car, a rather large white truck that looked familiar. He was sent flying across the street, where he numbly hit a glass window and was sent flying into a nearby store. Cars came screeching to a halt, now having enough time to react to the crashes on the road. My baby! The mother screamed as her husband hit the ground behind the truck, having been judo flipped over the top of the car as it went under him. She sort of ignored her husband in favor of running across the street to get to her crying and screaming child, who was not only covered in bruises and cuts, but had been kicked across the street. The father got back up and ran towards his wife and child. Are you two okay? He ran with a limp. Apparently he had taken that fall very badly. Toshinori was the first person out of those concerned for the teenage boy, who ran towards the broken glass window and saw the brutally injured boy laying on top of a destroyed shelf. He had shards of glass sticking out of his body. His arms and legs were bent in the wrong directions, his eyes were rolled up into his head, and he had a chunk of the wooden shelf lodged through his stomach. Toshinori saluted the dead boy, tears in his eyes at the heroic act the boy did with no hesitation to sacrifice his own life for total strangers. Truly, this boy was a true hero. Ow shit, this hurts, funking asshole truckin', you don't get to ice guy my ass today. I ain't no Subaru, and I sure as hell ain't no businessman waiting to get turned into a Nazi lowly funk. And a very colorful language. What? He's alive! Thank God, Toshinori whispered as the shards of glass started to shoot out of the boy's body, his body parts snapping back into place with a sickening squelch. It was horrifying to watch as his body went from nearly dead and dying to mostly fine as he screamed in anger at the top of his lungs. His blue eyes turned bright red, slit pupils, as his arms and legs were returned back to normal. The glass shards were all out of his body, and his neck snapped back into place as well, which had seemed broken. Young man, are you okay? Do you need any assistance? Toshinori rushed through the door of the store, not going through the broken window, as he rushed to the boy's side. The boy was all healed, except for the fact that he was impaled through the stomach, but even that was healed as the wood chunk was pushed out of his body as he healed. Funk, I'm fine, I hate this body. The boy stood up and took off his coat, looking at all the holes in it as he was surrounded by adults who were worried for his safety. Stupid body, moving on its own to save people. The boy grumbled to himself as he started to wipe the blood off of his body. Toshinori froze when he heard that. I'm sorry, but your body moved on its own? Toshinori questioned with a curious glance. Duh, whenever I see a person who needs help, my body just sort of moves. If I didn't have my quirk, I would have been killed by that. Life couldn't have given me super strength, but nope, I just had to have this one. The boy started to calm himself down, now that his quirk was no longer truly needed. Boy, what's your name? His body had moved on its own. That is the same thing all the best heroes who go down in legend stated. He's got the same heart driving him as the best of the best, Toshinori thought to himself with widened eyes, a grin growing on his face when he saw the boy grin, a beepy grin. Uzumaki Naruto, and I won't stop until I'm the world's absolute best hero. A hero 1,000 times better than any hero that came before me. Naruto introduced himself with a wide grin, before he put his hands into his pockets and started to go on his way. He didn't need to stay and get credit for this or anything, and technically, he didn't use his quirk when he saved those people. His quirk was always active, sure, but the people didn't need to know that, so he couldn't even get in trouble for using his quirk to save people. He was just an upstanding citizen who was in the right place at the right time. A hero's heart, passion, drive. I found him. Tashinori's eyes sparkled when he realized he had found the one. This was the perfect candidate, his successor. Hello, young Uzumaki. I am here to offer you the chance of no, that one is too direct. I should explain the situation to him first, Tashinori stated as his body absolutely rippled with muscle, his clothes completely filled in and more, his skeletal form from earlier almost completely set apart from this current one except for his tall height. Same clothes of course, but now they fit his body as he walked up the steps to the apartment building he was visiting. While Tashinori Yagi couldn't get Naruto Uzumaki's physical address, a visit from All Might could get the address from the authorities for sure. All he had to do was tell them that he was visiting Naruto to talk to him about his act of heroism the day before, and that he was going to tell the young man that it wasn't wise to do that anymore unless he gained a hero license. Though, the handwriting was atrocious. It was a decent apartment building, not great, not horrible. It was an apartment for lower middle-class families who couldn't afford houses, with cheap rent to it. From what he learned, Naruto lived with his great-great-grandmother. Considering that 10 years previously, his parents had been killed and left him with his mother's relative. The boy had a godfather, but the man apparently wasn't fit to be given legal custody of a child, and thus he had been granted to his closest living blood relative instead. Hello, Tashinori practiced a little more as he rang the doorbell. He looked down at the folded paper where he had some of his self-made instructions for this meeting. He grinned wide and true as the door started to open, and he put both of his hands on his waist in a victory pose. Hello, young Uzumaki. I am here to have a wonderful word with you this fine day. Tashinori shouted at the top of his lungs, and let loose a heart-easing laugh to help settle the tension. It's All Might. Mom, Dad, All Might is here. HRK, not Naruto. Instead it was a round-faced young girl, bubble-like rounded brown hair, rounded eyes and brown, little blush marks on her cheeks. She was a developing girl who was already quite pretty for her young age, wearing nothing but her black wife beater and shorts, not sexy pajamas, and the normal outfit worked for her. She was physically fit, he could see, possibly owing to a low-calorie, high-activity lifestyle. Whoops, wrong door, Tashinori thought to himself with a deadpan stare, before he smiled sheepishly. Oh wait, Mom and Dad are at work, darn. Can I get your autograph? You're All Might. The girl shouted as she pointed at him, very bubbly. Yes, I am All Might. You wouldn't happen to have heard what I said when I greeted myself, did you? All Might took a pen from his pocket and a small autograph book, signed the first page of it, and gave the entire book to her. She smiled wide as she looked at it, before she gained a thoughtful look on her face. Hello, young Uzumaki. Ah. You're here for Naruto. He's a couple of doors over, but he won't hear the doorbell. He's either asleep or working out right now, and Granny Mito takes a long time to get the door. Come on, let's go. I'm Ochako Uraraka. Ochako introduced herself as she grabbed Tashinori's hand and started to pull him down the apartment building. It was only a couple of doors, but the girl's laid-back personality allowed her to easily grab his hand. They stopped at the door, and Ochako lifted up the welcome mat and grabbed the spare key underneath it. Unlocking Naruto's door, she opened it and walked right in. I believe I should wait out here. Don't worry, Granny Mito is super nice. Granny Mito, this is All Might. He's here to see Naruto. Ochako called out as she walked right into the apartment, and sitting on a recliner sipping tea was an elderly woman. Tashinori saw the woman had to be in her late 60s or 70s in age. What might have been red hair had turned a burnt red color over the years. She wore a traditional kimono, and she had a motherly look on her face all the same. Don't let her looks fool you. Granny Mito is 137 years old. Ochako introduced the woman without any shyness. Mito looked towards them, smiling. Aya, Ochako-chan, be a dear and wake up Naruto-chan. I'll go get Might-sen a cup of tea. Mito, who was apparently over twice the age that she appeared to be, spoke as she started to try and get out of her recliner. A woman of her time, she was quite kind, polite, and servile towards guests. Tashinori couldn't allow a woman of her age to overexert himself for him though. It's okay, I'm sure young Uzumaki will be happy to do that when he wakes up. Don't. Tashinori was hit over the head by the woman's cane as she whacked him abruptly. Wha pal. I'm not dead yet. If I can't serve my guests a cup of tea, then I should just roll into a grave. Now you sit down, I've already got some nice and hot tea ready. You just wait for Ochako-chan to wake up my nephew. Mito pushed her cane against his chest, doing nothing to the massive man, but he sat down on the couch anyway. He looked at what she was watching on TV, and saw that she was watching the news. She was a 137 years old, but she was a feisty 137. Ochako just skipped into the other room with a happy smile, and as Tashinori sat down, he saw pictures of different people with red hair on the walls. He saw a man with blonde hair though, and a round-faced woman with red hair as well, the man being the only blonde adult on the walls, holding a spiky-haired blonde baby. So those were Naruto's parents. He recognized them as heroes seeing as they were in costume in the picture. Kushina Uzumaki, habanero heroine. Her quirk was negative chain. She could create golden chains that negated quirks. She got her hero name because she beat villains to a bloody pulp. Got into a lot of trouble often for going too far. Tashinori gulped, reading about the woman's fiery temper and habit of exploding the second anyone mentioned her rounded face and hair resembling a tomato. That changed quickly though when she became a member of the list of heroes who look like villains, since most of the time she ended up getting covered in villains' blood. Minato Namikaze, Raijin, with Marker's teleport as his quirk, he could teleport to anything he marked with his hands. He tried to end every conflict peacefully. In stark contrast to her, surprisingly, they fit. Tashinori could remember both of them from what he read. He never met either of them personally. Also, this was a rare case of the child not receiving either of his parents' quirks, or even a combination of the two. This was even rarer than when a child had parents with quirks, and got no quirk. This child had a quirk completely unrelated to either of his parents. Pfft. Tashinori nearly spat when he saw Naruto, asleep, floating in the air as Ochako pulled him along by his shirt. He noticed that Ochako had small little pads on each of her fingertips, related to her quirk. She let go of Naruto, and he started to lazily float in the air still. Using quirks in public was not generally allowed, but in a private residence it was more than allowed. My quirk is zero gravity. I can touch things with my hands and make them unaffected by gravity. Ochako was more than happy to explain. Also, he's a super deep sleeper. Ochako mentioned as she put her hands together, connecting all the tips of her fingers. As if by turning back on gravity, Naruto fell back to the ground and hit the ground face first. Morning, Naruto! Ochako greeted him with a wide smile. Good morning, Ochako. Naruto opened his eyes without moving his body. Ochako blushed. My face is just round, I'm not chunky, I'm petite. See, petite. Ochako lifted her shirt enough to show off her toned stomach. She couldn't help having a round face, that was genetic for her entire family. She blushed when she realized she was showing her stomach in front of All Might himself, who just seemed to be amused by them. Tashinori looked at Naruto's body though. He trained, that much was evident at even a first glance, something he couldn't do when the boy had clothes on. Now that Naruto was just in his boxers though, with a loose-fitting shirt on though. He could see that Naruto had a fit and toned body. His arms were muscular, never losing that speedy lean quality that ran in the lines of some families. His body was built for speed and condensed power, not bodybuilder muscle, but instead the body of a martial artist instead. His lean body almost reminded him of Bruce Lee, but his muscularity leaned more towards Jean-Claude Van Damme. It was a good rounded body build. Whatever. Oh, you're that guy from yesterday who knocked my ice cream. Naruto paused when he saw All Might wearing the exact same clothes as the guy from yesterday. Same blonde hair, but more neat, similar blue eyes surrounded by black. Same skin color, same freakishly tall height, exact same clothing as well. Naruto blinked a few times, and even Tashinori was a little surprised. Oh, so you're All Might. Cool. Naruto bumped his hand to his fist, figuring it out. Wow, years of not a single person being able to figure out his secret identity so easily, and this boy does it with a glance of his clothes and general appearance. His true form and muscle form were just so different that nobody ever really assumed that his hero form was just him using his quirk. While he doesn't seem smart, he's amazingly observant towards people. He remembered the clothes and my body traits, and transferred them over to even my muscle form. Tashinori mentally had to compliment Naruto on figuring him out. Naruto stood up and flicked Ochako with his middle finger. Oh, Granny, I'll help out with that. Naruto called out to his great-great-grandmother as he rushed into the connected kitchen to assist her. The entire time they were talking, she was still on her way to get the tea. I'll just see myself out. Ochako rubbed the back of her head when she got a read of the mood, and she could see that All Might wanted to talk about something important with Naruto. While she really wanted to stick around and see what was being said, she had to give them privacy no matter how much she wanted to spy on them. Mito glanced at All Might. Actually, Ochako-chan, can you help this little old woman do her grocery shopping? Mito asked with a nod to All Might, Tashinori looking a little surprised. Grandma's quirk is eternal binding sensor. She can sense and read emotions. And using them she can guess what people are thinking by reading their body language, and if need be she can bind their quirks for a time. Naruto explained as he quickly came back with tea. Ochako seemed to now be clued in, and she nodded her head to Mito as the two left through the front door, leaving Naruto and Tashinori alone. There was a moment of silence as Naruto sat down on the floor. Enraged Healer seems closer to being related to her quirk. Tashinori made some small talk, and since Naruto figured him out, his body steamed as he went back to his more skeletal form. Naruto didn't even blink. Yeah, Uncle Ashina was the one who held that quirk before he died, he remarked silently. Ashina Uzumaki, Raging Hero, Quirk Enraged Healer. Said to be one of the nicest people when not on duty, and was always willing to help regardless of situation. When he was wounded, his anger allowed him to heal. The angrier he got, the faster he healed. He was almost unstoppable in battle. Many compared his abilities to that of the American comic hero, Hulk, for the sheer power and raw strength he possessed in a fight. He died in a fight against a group of supervillains. His body was never recovered. So, how did you know that it was me? All Might asked. Your clothes gave you away more than everything, that and your height. Naruto explained. As for my quirk, it isn't related to any of the normal quirks in the registry, and we've had to hide a lot of what I can do when I use it. He said softly, it's a powerful quirk that if the government, or even supervillains found what it was truly capable of, wouldn't stop to try and get a hold of. He stated as he poured some tea. Granny's quirk is awesome though, she can tell when people are at danger and seal their quirks off. Yeah, you mentioned that a couple times. All Might noticed. I assume she's doing it to you as well? Naruto nodded. The sheer versatility my quirk possesses is almost like me possessing a dozen different quirks at once. He told him. When I awoke it, my family agreed to hide most of what my quirk could do, and Granny sealed almost all the power in my quirk off unless absolutely necessary. He explained, currently my quirk is all but sealed off unless I'm getting hurt, which is pretty much all I am capable of doing with my quirk at the moment. He told the hero. So, watch a one All Might? Naruto asked casually, and though Tashinori could hear some self-hatred in there, he didn't comment on it. So, he didn't have the typical baseline Uzumaki family quirk that was damn near mythical. However, considering who the boy's father was, it kinda made sense that he didn't get any related abilities. How curious. He could heal himself, which was a normal Uzumaki family ability, but he made it seem as if there were more to his quirk. Most Uzumakis had chains or sensory abilities, a couple of the rarer ones had healing quirks, and the more rare ones could clone themselves. There were some other quirks here and there, but the general abilities were the chains, healing or sensory. All in all, this was pretty good for him. Ah yes, I want to offer you the chance to become my successor. All the best heroes have one thing in common, they became heroes because their bodies moved on their own when saving others. Yesterday, when you risked your life to save that family, suffering for their sake with no hesitation, I saw that greatness in you. Tashinori looked at Naruto, who seemed a little confused, but was willing to listen to him. Tashinori lifted up his shirt, and he showed a massive scar covering most of the left side of his chest. Naruto glanced at it. Naruto stated in sympathy. Roughly 3 years ago, I fought somebody who did this to me, and I can only be a hero for 5 to 6 hours a day, and my limit is shrinking. My power, my quirk, is unique in that I can give it to another. This power is called One for All, and its ability is to stockpile power, and give it to somebody else who then stockpiles more and gives to the next generation. I need a successor, and I would like you. Sure. Naruto shrugged. No need to think about this. This is a pretty big decision. Tashinori stated with a raised brow. though he had a grin growing on his face. Looking at Naruto's face, he saw not even a single shred of doubt there. Nothing but desire and determination in the wake of a dangerous destiny, something many would hesitate with. You want me to succeed you and carry one for all, and use it to be a hero, and I'm saying I'll do it. I'll inherit your body, and use it to become a hero greater than even you. Naruto pointed at Toshinori with a determined stare. He was pointing right at his heart, and Toshinori grinned wider when he saw that there was still not a shred of doubt or hesitation. This boy was the perfect person to inherit one for all. Within his eyes he could see that there was just a desire to protect. His eyes were that of a true hero's as well. His body is trained already. He already was working to become a hero, knowing his quirk alone wasn't going to be enough. Toshinori still looked at Naruto's body language, and started to more seriously judge his body. His body was already moderately well suited for at least housing the power, but with his more lean, athletically built physique because of his age, he was a little concerned that the power might be too much. Very well, I'm Toshinori Yagi, known by my hero name All Might. Are you going to go to a hero's school? Toshinori asked Naruto as he stood up, and extended his hand to Naruto. Naruto Uzumaki, no hero name yet, and I'm going to be the best, so I'm going to go to the best school. I'll be going to you. When I'm old enough. Naruto spoke with a confident grin, taking Toshinori's hand and shaking it firmly. So, how are we going to do this? Some quirk ritual to pass it on to me? Naruto asked with a curious glance. Toshinori shook his head. When I pass it on to you, I'll begin to lose it, so we need to wait before I pass it to you. I still need to be the world's symbol of peace for a little while longer. Until then, we'll be training your body to become even better suited for my quirk, and when the time comes, then I'll pass my quirk on to you. Toshinori knew he was teasing Naruto with the quirk, only to make him wait for a while. But if Naruto couldn't even wait for a year or two, then he wasn't emotionally suited for the power. Naruto just grinned. Then I'll get stronger, and earn that power of yours. Naruto told him, surprising Toshinori yet again by the challenging grin he wore. This boy wasn't put off by having to work for the power. He welcomed the challenge. Toshinori smiled widely as he looked at the 2 tickets in his hand. Since it would be over a year until Naruto would be of age to enter at all, there was a little time for him to take Naruto and introduce him to a few people who could be of help to him in the future. One of the most important facts of that would be taking Naruto to find a person who would be able to help him create a costume that would be a good fit for him when the time came. I need to tell a little lie to David, but it will be fine. Toshinori knocked on the apartment door with a wide smile on his face. Hello, Naruto my boy. I was just wondering if you would do me the pleasure of joining me for the expo. Toshinori, All Might form, shouted at the top of his lungs with a marvelous shout as a male voice that didn't belong to Naruto came from the male voice not belonging to Naruto. While Naruto's voice was masculine, it had a slight feminine pitch to it. This voice was just flat out deeper than Naruto's own voice. There was a male with long red hair, his body was all skin and bones, and he was wearing a black cloak with red clouds on it, his eyes purple with rings around the pupil. He wore a belt around his cloak that had 6 black rods attached to it. I'm sorry, but Naruto is already coming with me to the expo. The male spoke as a matter-of-factly, before he started to close the door. Your Pain. Toshinori looked at the person in front of him. He was the puppet hero, Pain, with the quirk, sad puppetry, which allowed him to create black rods that when stabbed into somebody, allowed him to control their bodies. At max he could control 6 people. He was in the top 10 of heroes who look like villains, and because of his extremely poor health, often took breaks from hero work. He was currently on a 6-month break from being a hero, so it was a surprise at all to see him out of the hospital. Nagato Uzumaki. Yeah, and I'm Naruto's cousin, telling you to get out of here now. Shoo. Nagato started to show All Might of all people away. All Might didn't need an introduction. Uncle Nagato, I've got watermelon. Ochako shouted as she walked down the hallway with Naruto, and another red-haired girl behind the both of them. Naruto was carrying a large watermelon under his arm, and Toshinori got a good look at the girl. Long red hair and red eyes, the exact same shade of red. Her hair ended in spikes like Naruto and Nagato's hair did, but her hair was straight. She was almost as pale as Nagato was, but her arms and shoulders, more than likely her entire torso, were covered in bite marks, and she wore red-framed glasses. She had a very petite build. She had a more streamlined build like Naruto and Mito, rather than the build of the skeletal man who opened the door. I'm telling you, Naruto, that's All Might. Why is All Might bothering to stop by your apartment? She spoke as Ochako ran up towards Nagato and smiled at him. Thank you, Ochako-chan. Naruto and Karen always get into arguments when the two of them are around each other. Nagato moved to allow Ochako to enter the apartment, and Karen followed after her with a bitter frown. But I like arguing with him. Sorry, All Might, I've got family visiting. You're more than welcome to come in though, Naruto mentioned as he placed a hand on Nagato's shoulder with a firm nod of his head. Nagato glanced at All Might for a second, before clicking his teeth and walking into the apartment as well. So, Naruto had family over. He didn't expect that. Thank you for allowing me. And Toshinori walked into the apartment, and he saw Mito sitting where she usually sat. She was knitting something patiently as she glanced over at him, and gave him a short wave. So, Naruto, you didn't tell me that you were related to more heroes. Toshinori gave a short laugh. Nagato snorted in annoyance. The Uzumaki family has been nothing but filled with heroes, even before heroes were legal. Shows what you know about my prized nephew. Nagato gave a soft smirk as he stared at All Might with unblinking eyes. Had Nagato blinked even once since the two of them made eye contact? Kinda freaky actually. Okay, way to show your favoritism. Karen deadpanned, since Nagato had always favored Naruto among everyone in their family. It was to the point that it was a little smothering, despite the fact that he was her legal guardian since her mother died. She stopped caring a long time ago, but it was still a point of annoyance for Mito, the oldest in the family. Naruto's father had the same master as I did. Naruto isn't just my cousin, he's my brother's child. Nagato spoke with pride. Since he and Minato shared the same master, that made them brothers, which made Naruto his nephew. He and Karen had a more distant relationship. He just took her in because she was one of the very few of their namesake left. Naruto, you need to learn from Master Jiraiya, not this guy, Nagato stated as he pointed at All Might with an accusatory finger. Okay, ouch. Ochako was just busy cutting the watermelon, and now Toshinori could understand where the dislike was coming from. Naruto or Mito had told their relatives that Naruto would be learning under him, which apparently caused some issues in the family. Hi, I'm Karen Uzumaki, by the way. My quirk is Aroused Healer. When people bite me and suck my blood, it heals them and restores their stamina. It works faster when I'm aroused though. Karen introduced herself and offered All Might her hand to shake. Naruto's quirk, though he didn't know its name, gave him strong healing abilities among others, and for some odd reason, when he was angry the faster he could heal himself and restore his own stamina. If he were to have seen nothing aside from that, he would assume he had inherited Enraged Healer, and Naruto himself had confirmed that he didn't possess a healing quirk. Karen's quirk Aroused Healer gave her strong healing abilities, and the more aroused she was the better she could heal others' wounds and stamina. They had somewhat similar quirks, but at the same time both were opposite in nature. He could heal himself, and she healed others. Now that he thought about it, Mito could sense others based on their emotions, and Nagato was famous for his sorrow for his enemies, making his control of them stronger. His pain making his quirks stronger. Does your mother get? Yes, Uzumaki quirks are all made stronger by our emotions. Mito, Karen, Naruto, and Nagato all answered in unison, all of them deadpan in tone. Whoa, scary. Ochako shivered when she heard all of them say that at the same time. Uzumaki never inherit our parents' quirks. We always get different quirks than our parents. The only thing that is always the same is the fact certain emotions make our quirks more powerful. Kushina's rage allowed her to create more chains, the angrier she got. Nagato explained simply, as if it should be obvious. Nobody in their, what remained of it, clan ever truly inherited the abilities of their parents. Instead, we have the same activator instead among the clan's family members. My mother's quirk became stronger through sadness, Karen's mother through arousal, Naruto's mother through rage. Nagato explained since Ochako seemed to be the one confused about it. Mine is calm. The calmer I am, the better I can sense negative emotions. Mito added in as well. It was a strange quirk of Uzumaki quirks, and that was that their quirks weren't genetically inherited, which went against common science of quirks, but at the same time it kinda made sense. Well, I was only here to invite Naruto to the expo with me as his teacher. I wanted to introduce him to a friend of mine. Toshinori spoke a little more nervously. Nagato sat down next to Mito. Both placed her hand gently on his leg to calm him down. He seemed placated by her action, and leaned back into the couch with a sigh. Also, I didn't know that there was a clan Uzumaki. Tashinori stated with a wide smile. He was happy to know more about Naruto, his student. Please don't get Ochako and Naruto started, but we're stopped. The Uzumaki were a proud family of warriors, you know. Despite living in Japan for the longest time, we weren't Japanese. Kushina and Nagato's generation were the first generation to live here, and both Karen and Naruto are first-generation Japanese citizens. For the longest time, we lived on our private island. Mito started to get more passionate, a twinkle in her eyes as she spoke of their clan. Wait, you aren't Japanese? Tashinori asked Naruto, while Mito continued to talk. I'm 1/4 Japanese. My grandfather on my father's side was American, and he moved to Japan to be with my grandmother. My father was given my grandmother's last name and a Japanese first name so he wouldn't be picked on for being a half-breed. Naruto explained to his master, seeing it wasn't anything secret. His mother was a full Uzumaki, meaning she had no real Japanese in her blood. I'm not Japanese, Nagato pointed out, since either of his parents had been born or raised in Japan. I'm half, Karen stated, since she was the Uzumaki with more Japanese in her than anyone else in the entire clan. Despite having red hair like most Uzumaki had, she was still somewhat of the black sheep of the family thanks to her more Japanese upbringing. Ochako passed around watermelons sliced to everyone, and of course, when animals started gaining quirks, animals with dangerous quirks were. Mito was still going into Uzumaki clan history, and she would be going on for a while without paying attention to if anyone was listening or not. Everyone already, other than Tashinori, knew the history that she was going to explain to them. When she's like this, she's going to continue talking for at least an hour. Nagato sighed, rubbing his forehead. You just to get her talking, didn't you? He said as he gave Tashinori a look. Uzumakis are motormouths. Ochako whispered to herself, I'm going to punch you. Karen and Naruto stated to her with twitching fists. Not to mention, it seems anger issues run in the family. Tashinori coughed into his hand when the mood in the room became a little more awkward. Well, if you're going with your cousin, I guess you don't need to come with me, Tashinori stated as he got up, about ready to go. Sheesh, you look like a schoolgirl that got dumped. Naruto snorted as he turned to the elder male Uzumaki. Nagato, I'll go with him, and just see you at the expo. Seeing as we are all going there after all. Naruto rolled his eyes and stood up. Really? Tashinori was just made extremely happy by his statement. Nagato frowned. And have you missed out on another tournament? Naruto, you need to be there or you'll be disqualified. Again, he stated. Now, when an Uzumaki is training to become a hero, they train at. Mito was still telling her story. Tournament? Tashinori asked. Ochako crossed her arms. Naruto competes in fighting tournaments. Legal of course as they are sanctioned by the Pro Hero Joint Committee. She pointed out, it helps prospective students who wish to be a hero get into the best courses and schools. It also allows people to show off the skills they have for pro heroes who need interns if they don't want to take the hero school courses. She said, You also forgot to mention the prize money, Karen said as she looked at her. Prize money notwithstanding, I was simply going over the basics. The round-cheeked girl commented. I don't just do it for the money, I do use it to see where I stand in terms of my own capabilities. Naruto huffed. So aside from the expo itself, I'm sure there was a legitimate reason you wanted to have me join you, right? He asked as he turned to Tashinori. Yes, very much so, Tashinori said, nodding his head. Good, we'll check out what you want us to do first, and then head to the tournament. Naruto paused. Well, finals really, seeing as the preliminary fights were held last month. He snorted. This is great, I'm sure you will love meeting David and his daughter. I hear that she is starting to take her studies seriously. I have no doubt that one day, she'll be the one to make your costume like her father does mine. Have you put any thought into costume designs? Tashinori asked excitedly, since this was great for him and Naruto's bond as master and student. Naruto nodded his head. He had known that for a long time now. Ha, this really is a challenge. David Shield smiled softly to himself as he poured his heart into his research, by himself in his lab today, as he bee-pized over the data on the computer in front of him. A middle-aged man with cropped short hair and light blue eyes hidden by his glasses, a blue shirt and light gray pants on. To many, the complicated data in front of his eyes would mean absolutely nothing, but to him it was nothing less than a priceless treasure of information and secrets. On the table, underneath a glass container with several small lasers pointing through the glass and zapping a small red and black pile of what appeared to be goo, was what he was working on as he typed away. Guess who? Large peach-skinned hands covered the front of his glasses, and his eyes widened at the extremely familiar voice to himself. Also, the gesture itself was quite odd, usually only saved for those you were close to anyway. All Might, that is creepy as shit when two men do it. An unfamiliar voice to him stated, a much younger male voice. Well, Naruto my boy, you just gave it away. Toshinori stated as he uncovered David's eyes, who started to smile as he turned around in his spinning chair. Toshinori was in his All Might form wearing his costume, the newest one that he had been given. David saw that it fit him well, since he was the one who made the costume. Hello David, it's been a while, I've come to visit. Toshinori grabbed David and lifted him up into the air, giving him a massive hug as he did so. All Might, it's been a while. I haven't seen you in a couple of years at least, you nearly never come to the expo. It's great to see you, David stated, and he looked at the unfamiliar face he assumed to be Naruto. He blinked. Spiky blonde hair, bright blue eyes, well-muscled body for a boy his age, tan peach skin, seeming the way he was grinning. David was dropped down to his feet once more as he looked at Toshinori, and then he looked back to Naruto. Blonde hair, the exact same shade. Blue eyes, the exact same shade. Peach skin, nearly the exact same color. Trained bodies, though their bodies were muscled differently for their ages. Perfect teeth, though the young one had elongated canines. Toshinori called everyone by their last names, other than those he was close to, and he was calling this boy by what sounded like a first name. The fondness he seemed to hold for the boy, combined with their near-identical looks, left a very strong impression on him that he could properly assume his guess was correct. Oh, it hasn't been that long, you'll make me feel old. Naruto, this is my friend from America, David Shield, he said as he motioned to David only to glance at David and reciprocate the gesture towards his student. And David, this is my boy Naruto. I wanted to introduce the two of you, so I came to the expo this year, so tell me David, anything special you're working on? Toshinori gave a loud shout of joy as he introduced Naruto and David. David blinked for a few seconds as he registered the information, before he just smiled and extended his hand down to Naruto. Well then, surprise introductions aside, I'm happy to meet you Naruto. Just Naruto, aside from the fact that you are from America. I don't like being called with suffixes or like it when people call me by my last name. Naruto stopped him by shaking his head and holding a hand up in a stopping gesture. So, you designed the old man's costumes, huh? Naruto asked as he gestured to All Might, who seemed physically wounded by the comment on his age. He wasn't that old. Well, maybe he was old, but he wasn't that old. Well, that pretty much confirms it. David smiled a little to himself as he looked at Toshinori with some pride. So, he finally had a child to call his own. Good for him. You see, David here has been designing my costumes since our college days. The hero explained to Naruto before looking to his friend. So, what do you say David? Want to design his first costume? He'll be entering you. Rather soon. Toshinori nudged David in the ribs lightly, as he asked for a rather important favor of his friend. He wanted to make sure that Naruto had a costume that would be able to handle the power he was going to be inheriting. David just laughed. Already asking me a favor, after this long, you never changed Toshi. David chuckled. Sure, so tell me, what's your quirk Naruto? David questioned the youngest male in the room. He was still a little surprised that they had come all the way to Ireland for this, but he was happy all the same. He could already guess what Naruto's quirk was if his friend wanted him to make him a suit for when he entered you. Of all schools. Let me guess, you've got the same quirk as this big guy. David gave Toshinori a nudge in the arm, with a laugh of his own. Not quite at all. Actually, his quirk not only gives him as much power as mine, but his even increases his healing abilities the stronger his anger. Toshinori interrupted Naruto before the boy could correct David. Alright, if this was a friend of Toshinori's, but they didn't know the secret of One for All, then it would be hard to explain how Naruto had more than one quirk. So just explaining that Naruto's quirk was a little different than he thought would make some sense. I'd better call the government and update my quirk. I'll have to say that I can overheal my muscles and grant myself super strength as well or something. Naruto thought to himself. Just hiding his overall abilities was troublesome enough. He was always having to adjust them so he could always hide what he could really do. Don't get the wrong idea, he loved his quirk's ability to heal him. But he wasn't going to be able to hide all his abilities forever. And knowing that pretty boy prick, he was leaning more towards the sooner over later. And don't even get him started on those 4 pricks that he called brother either. Regardless, he would have to come up with an excuse for why his healing quirk gave him super strength. All the same, he had not inherited one for all yet, so he would have trouble proving his quirk had changed a little. You seem really happy, Naruto pointed out as he saw the look on David's face. He seemed overjoyed. You already know this considering the two were father and son. David could freely talk about this information. But Toshi won't be able to be a hero forever, and the world needs All Might. I'd been worried for a long time about his retirement, but with you around, the world won't lose its symbol of peace. I'm really happy for you, Toshi. David extended his fist to Toshinori, his friend bumping it. After all, who better to inherit the title of symbol of peace than All Might's own son? He had always been worried about the world and what would happen when All Might was forced to retire. But Naruto seemed old enough that in a few years, he would become a hero who could take the title. It helped him breathe a sigh of relief, knowing that the world would be in the best qualified hands. He was also happy that Toshinori could find a woman to be with. So, while we talk costume details, where is Melissa? I'm sure she and Naruto could walk around the expo together, give us a chance to catch up. Toshinori wanted to introduce his student to his friend's daughter as well, while he had the chance. She's studying. I'll send her an email telling her you're here with a guest. He told All Might. So Naruto, what kind of costume do you imagine yourself wearing? David asked while he sat down to turn to his computer, and he opened his email, sending one to his daughter extremely quickly, before he opened up his costume designing software. He moved aside so that his computer could see Naruto with its camera, and quickly scan his body. Using aging software, he aged Naruto's body to 16 years old in the picture, and isolated his body so that he could start designing the costume for the age where Naruto would be wearing it. It would be as accurate as he could make it with as little data as he had on how Naruto fought, and it would be adjusted for Naruto's actual body measurements when the time came for it to be truly created. Scree! The 3 men held their hands over their ears when an ear-splitting sound rang through the room, and the goo in the tube started to vibrate violently. David quickly switched his computer back to the program it was running before, and the lasers started to fire off again more violently, calming the goo down and returning it to normal. There was an awkward silence. Well, that's annoying. Naruto deadpanned as he stared at the goo. A new invention of yours? Toshinori asked David, and the man nodded his head with a frustrated sigh. Quirk Researching Assistant Medical Aid. David shrugged. I call it Krama despite what it looks like. It's not actually slime. It's made up of millions of nanomachines. He stated, I built it so that it could help me research quirks both to better understand them, and to apply medical aid to people who need it in ways modern medicine can help them. David explained with no desire for secrecy, since this was his friend and his friend's son. But we already have robots that do that, medical assistants. Toshinori pointed out. David snorted, those machines have a very low-powered AI. This here can learn and memorize every quirk it has seen and scan DNA. It can replicate itself and change its shape so it's made to multiply and manipulate itself so that it can go into people's bodies after researching their quirk and fixing anything wrong with them. Its AI will need to be so advanced that it exceeds human intelligence. He paused, letting his words sink into the duo's minds. I've already programmed the learning software, but it just isn't capable of holding all the information. I need a catalyst that can retain massive amounts of data. David had no problem programming this machine. It already had its learning software downloaded into it, and had a massive database on quirks with the capability to scan human and animal bodies in order to see what their quirks affected in the body. The one glaring problem was the fact it wasn't capable of holding all of its stored information. It didn't have the data storage needed to hold it all. It was frustrating. I see, of course, it would need to be able to transform itself into DNA, and DNA would require more data capabilities than most machines are capable of quickly processing. Toshinori could understand a bit of David's explanation. He was intelligent even if he didn't act it most of the time. He didn't understand the finer points of science, nor was he completely ignorant. Naruto glanced at the goo. Kurama, huh? David asked Naruto, who seemed to be on a different page than them. Kurama sounds pretty dumb, so why don't you call it Project Kurama or something? Q and K sound a lot alike, and Kurama sounds really badass. Naruto stated, since the name had been bothering him for a bit. David thought it over. You have a point. I guess the project should really roll off the tongue. Kurama it is. Sorry, the costume will have to wait. If I switch over the programs for too long, it will go unstable like it just did. I need to find a catalyst to make it stable. David stated with a sigh. After all, it needed to be something that could hold all the data and transfer that data as large as human DNA at speeds nearly instant. Sounds like a difficult problem, but you're the smartest scientist in the world. I bet if anyone can figure this out, it would be you. Toshinori shouted, and Naruto's phone beeped at the building with all the musical notes above it, getting some ice cream. You want to come and get some with me? Nagato, all this sounds like fun, but I've got to go meet somebody too. He'll get real depressed if I don't do this. I'll see you two later then. Naruto knew that Nagato would get real sulky if he missed ice cream with the man. He could meet Melissa later, but right now he had family matters he had to attend to. Obsessive and clingy family, but still family. Of course, enjoy the expo. David bid them farewell. It was mostly an uneventful day, 3 hours until the tournament, and everything was going good so far, other than going around, mostly with Nagato, and seeing the various different people and inventions on display. He really didn't do a lot. Not a lot really called out to him either invention-wise, since while science was cool and all, he couldn't understand any of it if he tried. Wait, what was that? I knew it. He was just like me. He doesn't care for all of these inventions. Nagato thought with some pride, since he too didn't understand a single thing about all of this science junk. Science had yet to be able to fix his sickly body, so it had to be worthless overall to him. He was a hero through sheer Uzumaki grit and determination, pushing his weak body as far as he could take it and saving lives with nothing but his quirk. So Naruto, did you bring a suit for the expo party tonight? Nagato asked, since he had never seen Naruto wearing a suit in his life. He was curious how his nephew would look in one. He didn't know if Naruto owned one, so he bought an orange one just for him. I like these goggles. HM? Nagato hummed when he turned his head and saw Naruto crouched down in front of a girl who had several things lined up on a blanket. Nagato looked at his phone with an event app on it, and he didn't see any people showing off their inventions in this location. Meaning the girl was not part of the iExpo, and was showing off things on her own, against event regulations, which as a pro he knew was illegal. The girl was matured for a girl her age, though girls matured faster than boys, so that wasn't much of a big deal to notice. Long pink hair and dreadlocks, and a slightly athletic/mature build to her, she wore a black tank top with too much cleavage exposed for a girl her age, and cargo pants. A quirk feature of crosshairs around her yellow eyes gave her a zoom scope-like vision aura about her. You've got great eyes. This is my 4th invention. My baby here not only allow for night vision, they can be used to measure people's physical stats, height, other measurements. Here, want to try it out? The girl picked up goggles that were attached to a green headband up, and she extended them to Naruto. Nagato deadpanned. Naruto didn't care about what the goggles could do, he just cared about the fact that they were on a headband, and Naruto wore headbands all the time. Naruto was almost never without some sort of headband to cover his forehead. The girl had some ankle weights and wrist weights, though they seemed like prototypes, and a few other small gadgets on display. Did she have a permit to show these off? Probably not, but who cared? Woohoo, I like this. Naruto tried the goggles on his forehead, and he pulled them down. Now this is the first useful things I've seen all day. Naruto looked at the girl with the goggles on, and he could see that the invention gave him her height, though strangely enough it was also giving him her 3 sizes, and damn, she was stacked. She was smiling brightly with wide open eyes when she heard him say that. She grinned with her eyes opened up even wider. Well then, why don't you try out this prototype too? This is my high-density weights. When you wear them, they add half of your weight to your body. Of course, they are only a prototype, but it would be great for weight training. The girl spoke in a near shout, gathering the attention of the people around them who had been ignoring her babies. She grabbed Naruto's wrists and quickly locked the inventions around them, adding a large amount of weight to his arms very quickly as she took his moment of surprise to attack them to his ankles as well. She stood up. Naruto stood up too, and started to move his body around. Wow, these babies can heavily assist in the training of any future hero, and help keep a hero's body in shape. When you wear these, they will cause a drain on your stamina by forcing you to exert more force to move. Great for training, small and compact so that they don't get in the way of comfortable movement, and designed with fashion in mind as well. Stylish and useful, just another example of Mei Hatsum inventing genius. Mei shouted as she used Naruto to show off her inventions. She walked over to Naruto and she pulled up the sleeve of his shirt and showed off his muscled arms. See, this boy here has an already impressive body, and even he is showing signs of strain while wearing these babies. Mei had no problem showing off Naruto's body. Nagato hummed in thought. Nice body, Naruto, you've been working out. Nagato complimented Naruto, personally jealous that Naruto inherited a body that could withstand such rigorous training. His own body was so frail that he had to rely completely on his quirk to be a hero, while Naruto's body was strong on its own without his quirk to help him. Naruto's years of training were showing, since Naruto had a quirk that required him to train if he wanted to be a hero. Naruto, care to tell everyone what your body fat percentage is? Mei asked, hearing his name and using it to further promote her inventions. She picked up another thing off the blanket, and she strapped it to his neck. Wait, what is going on? Naruto was just confused. 1 second he was trying on goggles, and now he was trying out practically everything on her blanket. 3% body fat. This baby here is worn on the neck, and it can keep track of your health. It tracks your body fat percentage, your pulse, blood content, and it can be used to observe health in a way that doesn't intrude on daily living. But this is just a prototype, so it has a habit of boom. Naruto's entire body exploded, much to the crowd's horror, as he and Mei were both caught up in the smoke. Naruto's neck was burned to a crisp, and his eyes were burning red since the goggles had been knocked off his eyes. The left half of Mei's body was covered in smoke from the explosion, while all of Naruto's body was covered. His neck was quickly healing though, steam coming off his burnt flesh as it was good as new seconds later. Mei had some correct? Nagato questioned as she nodded. You better think about running, you've made him angry, and he isn't afraid to hit girls. Nagato pointed out with an amused smile on his face. Karen could definitely attest to that with how often they got into a fight with each other. A tiny explosion like that had no chance of killing Naruto. It would only really hurt him, and pain just simply pissed him off. I see, you've got a healing type quirk, that's super useful for testing out my inventions. Mei didn't read the situation at all as Naruto turned his head to look at her, a growl emanating from his throat. Why did people always assume he just had a stupid healing quirk? He did not have a funking healing quirk. She didn't notice his growing irritation with her, but she certainly noticed when he took a step towards her with a fist drawn back. See, the weights survived the explosion, and now his speed will be cut down severely. Mei started to run from Naruto as he swung at her, and upon missing, he started to chase her down with a frustrated grunt. The weights were really slowing him down after all, they worked too, which pissed him off even more. You're a girl, so I'll only punch your face a little, he called out in clear and visible anger. You see, he's angry and chasing me at full speed, but with my baby, he won't catch me. Mei pointed out as she ran at a good pace from Naruto. She had left her blanket far behind, since this would be a good chance for her to run all around the expo and show off her inventions to as many people as possible. That's a great idea, Naruto, let's go show off my babies to everyone. Mei talked to him like he was an old friend instantly. I'm going to ram my fist up your ass, he declared angrily. I like your enthusiasm, and the fact my baby's blowing up won't hurt you badly works perfectly. Let's become partners so I can test all my babies on you. Mei offered Naruto as she ran from him. She blinked a little when she noticed his speed increasing a little, which was odd because he should be slowing down with his stamina decreasing, but instead he was getting faster. He was doing the opposite of what her invention should be making him do. Wait, muscles, when they get torn, heal back stronger and more durable, and her invention was strapped to his arms and legs right now. His quirk seemed healing focused, which it really wasn't, meaning that by adding a lot of weight to his arms and legs, she was causing his muscles to tear and be healed back stronger. The longer he chased after her, the faster he was going to get until he caught up with her and really did punch her. Mei turned her head away from Naruto, realizing that her invention had a use that she hadn't thought up. I am going to. For those with healing quirks, my baby can even up your training and cause you to grow stronger far quicker than other forms of training. You see, Naruto here is quickly starting to catch up to me. In mere minutes, he will catch up to me and beat me up. Mei pointed out the benefits of her invention to the crowd that she passed by. No longer was she running away from Naruto at a slow pace that he couldn't match. She had to speed up to a jog when he nearly caught her. Naruto swung at the back of her head, and just missed her by a few inches, causing her to break out in a full run when she realized he was getting way too close to her. Naruto didn't even care to notice he was getting faster. All he needed to do was give her a good solid punch for blowing him up. People were watching an ash-covered teen chasing a teen who was only half covered in ashes. You get back here! See, despite having shorter legs than me and being strapped with a grand total of twice his body weight, since he is wearing 4 weights with half his weight each, he's now catching up to me while I run at full speed. Mei glanced back with a grin, and saw Naruto was almost within arm's reach of her again. She was about to be in some pain, but she had seen a lot of people with her quirk, people that were showing interest in her inventions. That is, until a hand grabbed her by the back of her shirt. She turned to look at him with slight nervousness. Now Naruto, you wouldn't hit a girl for real, correct? Mei asked Naruto as growled at her before he then yanked her off her feet. She landed on her back, while he cracked his knuckles. You're about to hurt. I see. Everyone watch and make sure you see the wonders of this form of training. Naruto's speed and strength have now been increased by double what his strength was before. In mere minutes, he is twice as powerful. Mei advertised, even as she was about to get the beating of a life. She would take her licks like a champ, if it meant that she was going to get to advertise her precious inventions more for it. Time to use her body to increase her fame. Naruto took off the weights and tossed them on the ground, flexing his muscles and trying to feel how strong he was now. Her words had finally registered in his mind, and curious, he had to know if she was telling the truth. Running around, Naruto did find that he was a lot faster than before, surprisingly. The blonde looked back at the girl. Still gonna hit you despite what just happened. Later, you're back. Nagato saw Naruto walking towards him, with Mei holding onto his arm, and he seemed a little less irritated. And those are the benefits of you being my test subject, so how about it, wanna help me in the future? My inventions failing won't kill you, because you'll heal. Mei continued talking with Naruto. After he had walked away from her, she had ran after him. She wanted to get him to agree to become her test subject for her inventions, since it just made total sense. Her inventions blowing up wouldn't kill him, and nothing she could do to him would be permanent, so it was obvious that he should work with her. I'm not becoming your test subject. He declined immediately and sharply. How about boyfriend then? You'll still be my test subject, but you get boyfriend benefits. Having a test subject with a good body is a must for any great inventor. Mei was fine with this result as well. Boyfriend benefits? Naruto questioned. He didn't even want to try to know what that was. Holding hands, going on dates, kissing, *ing. Mei stated, and Naruto wasn't sure if he heard that last one right. For some reason, it didn't register to him right away. Nagato's face was a little red at how that one was mentioned. Mei blinked for a moment, before she realized what had happened. Sorry, one of my babies is a censor. When it registers certain words, it bleeps them out. I built it as a joke. Mei took a small remote out of her pocket, and she pressed a blue button. Holding hands, going on dates, kissing, and funking, you get all that for the low price of you being my test subject, I mean boyfriend. Mei looked away from Naruto when he tongue-slipped. You do realize that the both of you are under the age of consent, correct? And I could have you brought up on charges for even suggesting that to him. Nagato said, though Mei snorted. Oh please, the real fun wouldn't happen till we were 16. I know I'm too young to be doing that. Mei responded. Nagato grasped Naruto on the shoulder and looked to Mei. Sorry, but this will have to wait until another day. He told her, we have places to be, and currently, if we do not go now, we will be late. He stated. Naruto had a moment to think before he remembered that he had originally come for the fighting tournaments. Naruto then looked at Mei, and then he answered. Nagato Uzumaki was not one who made decisions lightly, not to his work, not for his family and friends, and certainly not when it came to his prized nephew. That meant he had to find a common ground with the man whom his nephew had decided to call his master and mentor. All Might was too recognizable due to the sheer popularity he had garnered. This meant he had to set up the meeting with the man in a secluded spot so they wouldn't be swarmed by fans. Yes, even Nagato had some fans who were into the more emo variants of hero work. He stood on top of the stadium that would serve as the battleground for his dear nephew to fight in the upcoming tournament. The rules for this were very different than normal fights. Seeing as 5 of the participants were biologically related, the judges had ruled it unfair for Naruto to compete against each of them and opted for an all-or-nothing fight where each of the competitors would fight it out for first place. However, Nagato also knew that the wannabe Yakuza brats would team up to fight Naruto in a 5-on-1 scenario where he would exhaust himself by the time he managed to get to the final opponent. They couldn't afford anything less than fighting dirty, which in this case was sadly being allowed. The sound of footsteps drew his attention, and he watched as All Might landed on the roof and approached him. "So you came," he observed. All Might nodded. "Yes, you mentioned in a message that you wished to speak with me." "What is it?" All Might questioned. "Naruto, for whatever reasons he has decided to place his trust in you as his mentor rather than that of Master Jiraiya. He stated, while I may not approve of you due to your high profile, I am willing to allow him to become your protege." Nagato told the number one hero. "I had thought that was something that Naruto had decided before you met me?" Tashinori questioned. "Naruto, yes, me and Granny Mito, no." Nagato informed him honestly. "However, I also know that due to the stress my body is under when I work from my over-reliance on my quirk, I cannot keep watching him as he grows older and prepares himself for a life which has as many cons as it does pros." The elder Uzumaki informed him, "Granny Mito may not have much time left. Despite her advanced age, she is still in her 130s nearing her 140s. She is a factor that I looked out for the moment she began raising him as her own when Minato and Kushina died in the line of duty. Karen is actually younger than him, so she is incapable of watching over him when I am inevitably gone." Tashinori looked to Nagato with a confused look. "I had thought that all of you would live to be as old as your grandmother. You make it sound as if that isn't the case." He stated, "No, it's not." The redhead answered, "Typically we Uzumaki have high vitality and excessive energy. However, I was cursed with a weak constitution as a child. I am lucky to be alive even now." He said before sighing, "I am trusting you can keep a secret?" He asked as he looked to All Might. "Yes, I can." The golden-haired blonde answered, "I'm dying." Nagato put bluntly, "I don't know how long I have left, don't care really." Nagato informed the surprised All Might, "What I do care about is my niece and nephew. Their safety is all that really matters to me, so I warn you now. If anything were to happen to either of them, I will come back, I will haunt you, and then, I will kill you." He put bluntly, "Don't let me down, you'll live." He stated before he walked away, "Now if you'll excuse me, I have a visit with the doctor, enjoy the fight." He stated as he departed. Tashinori swallowed the lump in his throat. "I think I just peed a little," he thought to himself. Tashinori caught up to Naruto in the changing rooms and greeted him excitedly. "Naruto, I found you!" he exclaimed excitedly as he grabs his student by the shoulders and shouts boldly. "Hee, hey All Might, how's it going? You handle everything you need to?" he asked his mentor. Tashinori grinned as he allowed himself to deflate. "Yes, I managed to sort everything out with David and he should be coming to attend the tournament to watch you fight," he stated. "Really, that's cool," Naruto said, only to turn away and sigh. "You okay? You don't seem pleased." Tashinori noticed. "It's nothing big, mind you, just what the judges decided," Naruto informed the pro hero. "It's a stage fight, isn't it? The one-on-one type?" Tashinori asked. "Normally it would be, but the remaining opponents I have to go against are all siblings," Naruto clarified. "The judges, in their infinite wisdom, decided to simply have it be an all-out brawl between the six of us. The winner takes the victory," he said. "Total bullshit if you asked me," he huffed out. "So, an unfair match. Tashinori went to offer that he could speak with the judges to have a normal one-on-one fight, but Naruto shook his head. "It's not me fighting them all at the same time that has me worried. I can take each of them on with little problem. It's how it was staged deliberately." The younger blonde ground out. "You act as if you have an issue with that?" Tashinori said. "Yes and no," Naruto clarified. "Yes, in the manner that the judges did it do mock my parents, seeing as they're paid off by the people I have to go against, and they utterly hate me, except the emo pretty boy," Naruto said, "and the reason I said no is cause I relish a good challenge," he stated. Tashinori turned Naruto around to face him. "Hey, don't fret, keep calm, and make sure you fight with a level and calm mind," he stated. Naruto wanted to say that he only would try, but against who he was fighting, it was never an option. "I can only try," he responded with instead. "Good, that's I can ask for," All Might stated. "Be safe, and have fun." And with that, he left. Naruto walked out of the hallway that led into the arena. The cheering of the crowd was a numb ringing in his ears. His focus pinpointed on the 5 individuals ahead of him as they also exited the opposing end of the tunnel. He didn't listen as the announcer declared the names of his opposition. Could care less how they called him out, he was focused, allowing his senses to move his body. And soon, He was standing slightly apart from them, his rival standing in front of him as they stood apart from one another. They were called the Unstoppable Unit, not only for their sheer tenacity and various capacities for fighting, but their quirks were versatile enough that if they just wanted to, they would be able to simply overwhelm their enemies with virtually no resistance. All except one. In order, their names and quirks were Izuna Uchiha Quirk Beast of Binding. He could shape the elements of wind, water, lightning, and fire into the shape of an animal he preferred, using a dragon to bind his opponents in place to subdue them to allow the others to beat and wail upon their opponent. He was the pious and smarmiest bastard among them. The one thing he hated about Izuna was the fact he would always be able to piss Naruto off to the point of no return with how he could simply use his words to throw him off the edges and enrage him to the point of going punch happy. Sure Sway Uchiha Quirk Melodic Embrace. The quirk allowed him to weaponize the sound waves in the air, and use them to subdue his opponents as long as he gazed upon them. He was actually one of the nicer brothers, but he more often than not put his foot into his mouth. In truth, he was actually the weakest of the brothers, seeing as he actually needed a weapon in order to physically channel his quirk in a fight. However, the offset to that was he was more likely to use it as a damn baseball bat if you got too close. Kagami Uchiha Quirk Tundra's Wrath. The quirk allowed him to use the elements of water and wind. He could also supercool the water and create ice, but he was incapable of using it in battle, seeing as he had to physically touch you to freeze your body. He could use the power over wind to hover, but he could not fly. The only way he could technically do so was to kick off of something and direct the air currents to push him through the air. He had this particular love of shaping the water he could use into a lance that could superfreeze his opponents. Itachi Uchiha Quirk Eternal Flare. The quirk was a powerful fire-based quirk, and Naruto had only experienced it in combat one time, and it fucking hurt. The flames were highly condensed and susceptible to grow stronger the longer they physically burned in the air. He was the smartest of the brothers, and probably the second strongest after Sasuke himself. He used a large sword in combat so as to not fall into full demand of using his quirk in a fight. Definitely the wisest of his brothers, that was for sure, and probably the only one that could truly give Naruto a hard time in a fight aside from Sasuke himself. And finally, Sasuke Uchiha Quirk Stormbringer. The quirk allowed Sasuke to control the elemental power of wind, water, and lightning, and even manipulate the weather itself. He had this annoying habit of supercharging his electricity that caused it to ignite similarly to that of fire. He was actually the strongest of the 5 brothers despite his position as the youngest of them. Oh, and not to mention he could use his power over wind or lightning to give himself the ability to fucking fly like Superman. Much like Naruto, he used a weapon to fight. In fact, compared to Naruto, he could actually be called the better of them. As his rival, they had fought and tied more often rather than ensured victory over the other. The current score between them was 70 fights with 26 to Sasuke, 24 to Naruto, with an even 20 draws settled in between. Though Sasuke suspected that was going to change soon. Naruto, been some time. He greeted. Sasuke, I see you brought the welcoming committee, he said as he looked to the silently sneering brood of brothers. Sasuke snorted. Unfortunately, I had no other choice. It was either this, or we would be wasting our time fighting pointlessly, he remarked. So, how do you want to do this? Naruto asked. All together, or one at a time? Naruto questioned as he looked at the brothers. I assure you I am more than capable enough of fighting you and yours. Heh, if that is what wish, we can accommodate. The youngest brother smirked. Good, I don't fancy waiting, Naruto said as his hand was covered in a dark substance in an instant, as he launched a powerful right hook that caused Sasuke to shoot back and stumble from the surprise blow. The one unique thing about this fight, aside from being allowed to show off his capabilities and quirk, was that nobody aside from Sasuke knew what he was planning. Sasuke respected Naruto. His brothers did not. He admired heroes who protected the people. His brothers killed them for sport. Sasuke admired the habanero and Raijin. His father's men had killed them, and his brothers had nearly butchered them. Only his willingness to steer his brothers away from the bodies were they able to be properly buried with honor. For Sasuke, this was just as much as a fight for fun as it was petty revenge. He disdained the underground criminal world, but he lived in it. And for that, He was willing to put even his own brothers in the path of absolute destruction to see his plans come to fruition. Of him becoming a hero like the Raijin himself. Sasuke stepped back behind the approaching four young men whom were his elder brothers. Naruto, he stated seriously, your powers are in use to combat. He said in observation, you should first spar with them a while. He offered. As it stood, Sasuke could command the fight how he saw fit. Bring in aid or assistance from any other competitor to wear down Naruto's stamina, but he also knew Naruto was far from inexperienced in battle. They constantly had to try and one-up the other. It is why they had so many draws in their fights. He despised Naruto as much as he admired his prowess. This, he had decided long ago, was the man whom he truly called his brother. Kagami snorted as he looked at Naruto. So, the weak little Uzumaki has finally allowed mommy to stop holding his hands. This should be fun, he commented. However, he then perked up and laughed. Oh wait, your mother died, like a weakling, he said as he and two of his brothers Izuna and Shisui began to outright laugh at his now annoyed facial features. Oh, what's the matter? Izuna asked him, sad that your whore mother can't witness you lose to those whom are better? He questioned with a mockingly sad pout. Naruto growled as his anger grew, you better be careful about you say next. I won't be responsible for what happens to you, he said. Ah, he thinks he can beat us in a 4-on-1 fight, how cute. Itachi snorted. Yeah, shame that his weak father can't save him from the beating he's about to receive. It'd be so tragic if he were to witness his son lose so horrendously, but your father died like a coward, Izuna said with a grin. I'm going to start punching now, you'll forgive me if I don't stop, Naruto stated. They should count themselves lucky, Karen said as she watched Naruto leap into the air and slam both his fists down, the arena shaking from the force of the blow. Toshinori looked at her in shock. Lucky? They're overwhelming him, he stated. How is that lucky? He questioned the young girl. Karen smirked as she leaned back, for the simple fact that he hasn't pulled out that damn stick of his. She commented, even with as mad as he is right now, he's still in control. She stated that alone is the only reason that those four idiots are still able to fight him. She told the pro hero, I don't understand, how does him not fighting with a stick counter the fact he is being pushed around? He questioned. You don't know what his quirk is capable of, do you? Karen asked as she looked at him. Toshinori shook his head. No, only that it is sealed off, or a majority of it is. He responded. Well, let me tell you. Simply put, Shift is the name of his quirk, and it allows him to not only heal himself, he can clone himself as well as physically change the molecular makeup of that which he holds. The stick I'm talking about is a 9-foot-long, 5-inch thick tungsten rod with an 2-inch outer core of titanium and a solid inner core of diamond. The handholds are made up of Australian Biolok, which is one of if not the strongest wood found on the planet, she said to Toshinori, who had to do a double take at what he heard. He can use his quirk in a manner that he can elongate, enlarge or shrink his staff. He can also enhance the strength of his muscles, lighten his body weight to have higher jumps, increase his weight to make him immovable, or even turn his flesh into stone. She told him, there is more to his quirk, but right now, what you need to know is that the band you will come to see on his head is restricting him from accessing those capabilities aside from healing. She explained. Toshinori felt his heart skip a beat. Even restricted, his student was still trying his best to work with what he had. Karen turned back to the fight. He hasn't really had access to the full power of his quirk in over a decade, and more often than not, when he tries to go beyond what Granny Mito has provided, the band tightens and causes him pain. At most he could probably turn his skin to stone and create a couple clones, probably command his staff's structural capabilities a couple times, but he can't fight like he needs to. He's just too dangerous for himself. He hates his quirk is so versatile, but he loves it all the same because it isn't the usual Uzumaki healing quirk you would see, nor is it the typical Namikaze variant of elemental control or teleportation. She said softly, his quirk could very well be the one who brings an end to all villainy, but he can't do that while Mito continues to restrain him. Toshinori thought to himself, he's not being restrained on the fact his quirk is so powerful that any decent villain would want to simply wage war for it. He's being trained to fight without the use of a power that could very well be as much of a danger to people as it is himself. Mito is waiting for him to begin training at a hero school so he can truly learn to harness his quirk in a combative scenario. That woman, as batty as she is, she's amazing. He could kiss that old bat right now. Quick tidbit of info. Tungsten is the densest and hardest metal known to man, seeing as it has the highest tensile strength of any pure metal, with a maximum of 500,000 psi at room temperature along with the highest melting point of any unalloyed metal. This would make it almost impervious to taking damage from the normal run-of-the-mill Quirk abilities. Results could vary, but the power required for it to be scratched as incredible at the thickness and density Naruto was using. What made tungsten look more impressive is that the metal is commonly used to make bullets and missiles, metal evaporation work, manufacturing of paints, creating electron and television tubes, and making glass-to-metal seals. With a weaker inner core of titanium, it would be able to send the shocks and vibrations along the length of the metal without shattering it from force trauma, meaning it could take more damage and dish out far more in turn. Add in an almost solid diamond core, and the pole was almost indestructible. And she mentioned the handholds were made of Australian biolok as well, though was impressive in itself. A single foot, 1 foot 12 inches, of dried Australian biolok would weigh around 70 pounds, and while many people with quirks had impressive strength, they usually lacked the stamina to swing that kind of weight around. Add in the weight to the tungsten alone, and that was already pushing the upper limits of several hundred pounds. As the metal itself is one of the heaviest elements, a 4-inch block of the metal, which can easily fit in the palm of one's hand, weighs a shocking 41 pounds. Naruto was swinging around a 9-foot-long 5 inches thick, and that meant he was swinging at least 221 pounds of tungsten around. The added weight of titanium, though in smaller amounts, would mean he had a 30-pound rod minimum to bash in heads. Oh, and Karen mentioned that he had a core of diamond, meaning that with the length of the center was cored out of solid diamond, or someone had molecularly bonded the mineral in such a fashion that he had a 90-pound diamond, which was worth a small country with the size alone. Hell, where did he even get it in the first place? Inside of a 250-pound rod of metal minus the wooden handle. He wasn't smart, but he knew his math alright. But holy shit, that was some serious muscularity his student had. He could very well handle half of his own quirk right off the bat if he inherited in the next year or so, which meant Naruto was going to be much stronger than he was when he could gain it. And from his calculations, the total weight was roughly around, 221 pounds of tungsten. You add the 30 pounds of titanium, then you include the 90 pounds of diamond. Finally follow that with the added 70 pounds of weight from the wood. Yeah, that seemed right. 411 pounds total seemed legit. In his hero form, Toshinori could spin the pole all day long with no qualms. But from what Karen was saying, Naruto could easily double, or even triple the amount of weight he was carrying, or even nullify it altogether, and leave the strength of the original weight it held in total likely very easily. Sheesh. Kid was gonna do some damage if he hit hard enough. Naruto growled as he launched a harsh shot to Izuna's sternum, twisting it as he forcefully landed the blow to his gut, which lifted him up off his feet. With Izuna now desperately gasping for breath, Naruto grabbed his shoulder and forced him to his knees when he kicked one out from under him, drew his head back and smashed it into his opponent's forehead with enough force to rattle the ground around them. Izuna, dazed and powerless as he was to defend himself, managed to use his quirk to form an elemental dragon to try and attack Naruto. However, Naruto merely grunted in annoyance as he gripped the base of the dragon's neck and then its lower tail. Despite being shocked and also burned at the same time, he proceeded to wrap it around Izuna's neck like a scarf. And with a turn, he leapt through the air, dragging Izuna with him, and then proceeded to slam the Uchiha down into the ground by the throat, causing the eldest brother to cry out in pain. Wham! The audience gasped in shock by the actions they had witnessed. The brutality of using a person's own quirk against them was almost unheard of, and Naruto had used Izuna's against him so as to take him down with extreme ease. Not feeling any form of remorse, he proceeded to repeat himself not once or twice, but multiple times. Wham, bam, bam, wham. He slammed the Uchiha's head into the ground, consistently ignoring the gripping hand on his arms and sure pleading look for him to stop, but he received no response from the blonde. Finally, it reached the point he had forced Izuna to pass out from the pain with the numerous head slams he had been exposed to. Naruto stopped immediately as he watched his opponent fall under the thralls of sleep and stood up to face the next and most annoying of the brothers and cracked his neck. He didn't mind smack talk, but talking ill of the dead, especially his parents, was where he drew the line. The crowd gasped and owed from the slams he had used on the eldest son. Of all the ones there, I'm surprised he didn't keep going. Karen commented. And why is that? Toshinori asked. I mean, aside from the bad mouthing, of course. He remedied. Because Izuna doesn't care. She answered, Almost venomously, he nearly killed Uncle Nagato at one point to make a statement. Were it not for his daddy and granddaddy being a Yakuza boss, the hospital bill would have been bigger than it's gonna be for all his kids fighting Naruto. Carrie said with a scowl, Izuna always cries to his daddy when he doesn't get his way, and he always demands someone pay for not standing before him and revering him like some type of king. She crossed her arms. The last time Izuna bad-mouthed Uncle Nagato in front of him, he was in the hospital for an entire year recovering. She snorted, seems he didn't learn his lesson last time either. And how do you know his father is a Yakuza boss? Ochako asked. Karen rolled her eyes, he likes to gloat. She responded, yeesh, and I thought the old man could be terrifying. Thought Toshinori as he shuddered as he watched Naruto slap away waves of light aimed at him by the brother using what appeared to be a strangely made guitar. Naruto slammed a backhand into the annoying instrument out of Shursue's hand, the Uchiha stumbling back as he was struck by another blow that made him trip over his feet. Naruto stomped a foot down, grabbing the stringed instrument in the air and raised it up, and proceeded to slam it down on Shursue's head repeatedly. Bam, wham, slam, bam, wham. After the fifth, which snapped the instrument in half, he grabbed Shursue by the shirt and jumped up where he slammed him on his back, where he then pinned him underneath the knee. Clasping his hands together, he then brought them both down with enough force to knock the Uchiha out as well as make a crater with his head at the same time. He was suffering from a major traumatic brain injury that, if not treated, would and very well might end up killing him. I would have figured he would have simply thrown him like last time. Ochako hummed. Why is that? Toshinori asked. Oh, he does it for sport. Likes testing his strength to see how far he can get the distance each time. She laughed. That wasn't what he was expecting. Naruto dropped to his knees and spun around before he backhanded Itachi's sword, returning to his feet before drew a leg back and Spartan kicked him where the Uchiha stumbled back and fell to a knee. Naruto growled as he kicked the sword out of Itachi's hand and away from where he was, leaving him open to a very angry Uzumaki. The barrage of punches were brutal as they were amazing. Itachi lasted all of 10 blows to the face, several to the temple at that, before he succumbed to the force of the blows and fell unconscious. Naruto, not done in the slightest with him, raised his fists over his head and slammed them down on his head, burying Itachi's head deep in the ground. Watching the brutality was an eye-opener, and while Toshinori had done some brutal fighting when he was younger, this was certainly very high on the chain. Sheesh, he was trying so hard to be so polite. Ochako sighed. This is polite? Toshinori asked with wide eyes. Hiya, no, this is Naruto basically telling them to keep their mouths shut. The bubbly girl said, Naruto's parents died saving a town from a group of villains. I'm pretty sure even you would want to show them that speaking ill of the dead is not something to make lightly. Toshinori cringed. Welsh wasn't wrong. A crackle of thunder filled the air, drawing their attention once more as they watched what came next. A dragon roared down from the skies, lightning sparking across its body as it wrapped around Naruto and then bit into his shoulder as it exploded, shocking him enough to freeze him in place long enough for Kagami to form a lance of water and jump at him, the paralysis placed upon him wearing off quickly where the blonde sidestepped and grabbed the Uchiha's hands, uncaring of the frostbite crawling up his arms as he growled at Kagami. With a harsh pull, he drove his knee up into his opponent's sternum, causing him to dry heave for breath. Then he headbutted him, which further dazed the Uchiha. And finally Naruto began to launch several gut shots to his opponent's stomach before he kicked him away, the Uchiha stumbling down to a knee as he tried to regain his breath, only for Naruto to drop kick him hard enough to send him flying as he was struck. But he wasn't lucky enough to go far, seeing as Naruto grabbed his leg then raised him over his head before he snarled while he slammed him into the ground hard enough to concuss him. Seeing this, Karen placed a hand to her forehead. Well, he can't say he didn't warn them. She commented. Yeah, I'm just surprised he didn't go further. Toshinori said quietly. Nah, Naruto's always been one to let his emotions drive him, but when you ain't fighting back, he doesn't keep it up. Ochako said promptly. A very good point. The hero muttered. In the middle of the stadium, having watched his rival seemingly knock out each of his brothers one by one, Sasuke finally decided it was his turn to face the music as he looked up, where upon doing so, a deep and belatedly excited laugh filled the air as Sasuke finally acknowledged him, pulling that infernal blade from the earth, and foe of worth indeed. The red-eyed petty boy declared pointedly, as I have helped you, I shall see it through. He declared as both Naruto reared back and snarled with rage. Help, help, how did he ever help him? No, calm. He needed to be calm. Sasuke was not an ordinary opponent to be taken lightly. Breathing deeply to regain his control, he reached up to his ear to pull a small silver stick out and held it out and tossed it in front of him. Grow now, Naoibo, he spoke in a soft whisper. And then, a glow filled the air as the staff exploded in mass and girth as it exploded in mass and girth, before a massive pillar blasted up into the skies above, crushing the earth and rattling the field, many observing witnesses going wide-eyed in shock or awe at the sudden appearance of the massive construct itself. The stadium rattled and rocked from the massive pillar's appearance from out of nowhere, and everyone felt their eyes widen in shock or awe. With the entire audience silent, and both Ochako and Tashinori gazing upon the weapon in shock, Naruto ignored everyone and everything as he simply approached it in silence as a calm fury overwhelmed his mind. As he rested his hand upon the massive object, a silver glow filled the air before forming into a massive loop that surrounded his head. Granny Mito, forgive me, but I must avenge their honor, he uttered silently, the anger in his voice no longer there, but palpable enough to hear in his pattern of speech. What the hell? Where in God's name did that pillar come from? A young woman with elongated earlobes that had what appeared to be auxiliary cords attached to the bottom of her earlobes exclaimed, as a future pro-hero and student at U.A. Kyoka Jiro loved seeing a good fight, but this was ridiculous. Naruto, Ochako whispered in awe. Sasuke snorted. So, you've finally decided to fight me seriously after all these years? He remarked calmly. I don't often see this side of you, he stated. Naruto, however, turned to gaze at Sasuke. Shrink down, Naoibo, he ordered as the massive pillar that once touched the heavens vanished only to become a 9-foot bow staff that the blonde teen could grip in his hand, the crowd blinking to make sure that they weren't seeing things, as he now grasped the once massive pillar now in hand. Seconds after, with practiced and flawless ease, Naruto whirled the staff in hand in front, behind, above, and finally gripped it in a ready stance, showing he was ready to continue fighting with his rival. Well then, show me if you can still keep up, old friend. Sasuke smirked, holding a hand up as lightning sparked and began to grow into a long bolt of light that soon took the shape of a large spear, and then vanished. Seconds after, the two smashed into each other, Naruto's new weapon blocked by Sasuke's forearm. A kick sent Naruto sliding back, but he wasn't knocked down, and he swung to engage, swiping from high and blocking down low only to weave and bob around Sasuke as the two traded blows. With a leap, Naruto grasped the staff at the end and swung down, crushing the ground to dust, forcing Sasuke to dodge or be lest he be killed. Blasts of electricity were unleashed from the Uchiha, but Naruto began to spin and weave through them, smacking those he couldn't away with his staff. That is until one lucky one struck him in the stomach and sent him flying through a couple of the fake buildings. Seconds later, Naruto stopped himself by stabbing the pole into the ground, where he rushed forward once more, swinging wildly around. The staff smashed into Sasuke's side and flung him back, where the two once more rushed one another. The ground was being crushed and torn apart with each blow. Spurs of cement that had been uplifted by Naruto toppled like paper as the two battled relentlessly. Spinning and moving his staff around his body, Naruto once more slammed it into Sasuke, where the Uchiha growled and in a burst of static sped off. Naruto, seeing this, growled and gave equal chase, the two constantly slamming and crashing into one another as they tore the battleground apart in the clash. Naruto launched a double kick to Sasuke's face with thunderous rage, only for the Uchiha to slide back and respond by hitting him with an uppercut that hit equally as hard. Naruto felt his back collide with the ground, his staff flung from his grasp, where the blonde jumped up and ran over to grab it, and once more spin it around in his grasp and readied himself for more. Vanishing and appearing through the space they were contained, Naruto gave Sasuke as good as he was given and more. The Uchiha wanted a fight, he'd give him one he would not soon forget. More and more buildings were brought down as the two clashed until Sasuke managed to knock Naruto onto his back, where he then grabbed the blonde by the throat and sneered down at him. Do you not see the difference between the two of us? Your power is inconsequential to my own. I have always been and shall continue to be better than you, he said beepily. Naruto choked and snorted in response. I thought I told you that you'd all pay for what you said, he responded as he placed the end of his weapon into Sasuke's gut before shouting, Grow Naoibo. Bam! The staff extended and crushed Sasuke's gut as it launched him away into the air. Through the pain in his gut, the Uchiha looked down and watched as Naruto raced up the weapon towards him. With a jump and spark of lightning that confused Sasuke as to how it formed, Naruto snarled at him, This is for Nagato. and slammed a powerful punch into his chin that shot Sasuke off and further into the air. This is for Granny Mito. He snarled as he launched hit upon hit to Sasuke's face. With a jump, Naruto clasped his hands together and brought them over his head. This is for Karen and my mother. And slammed them down on his opponent's head, the Uchiha crashing into the ground and crying out as he rolled across it. This is for everyone else, Naruto declared as he drew his arm back. Kaboom! The ground shook as a pillar of light filled the air from the hit. Naruto watched as Sasuke slowly rose up to his feet, wiped his mouth of some of the blood pouring out from the busted lip and chuckled. Well, at least I am able to see the real you now, Sasuke stated before the Uchiha slipped away in a burst of electricity. Naruto paused in his spot and looked around to see where he might have gone. He let his senses seek him out before he swept his staff behind his back, blocking that annoying lightning rod with a clash of energy that sparked thunder and lightning. With a swipe, he pushed the spear away and then pinned it beneath his foot when Sasuke tried to swipe it upwards at him. So, even now you continue to restrict yourself in our fight, he remarked in disappointment. Will I ever even get to see the actual potential that you have, old friend? Or do you intend to make it so the bouts we share become so great they gain immortality? He questioned. Naruto felt laughter bubble up from his gut and let it free. Immortality, he snickered to the man's face as if he had been told the funniest joke in the world. For that word, all heroes and villains have ruined themselves, he said pointedly before flipping backwards and away from his opponent. The clash started anew, staff against spear. The ringing of metal sounded through the air as they came at one another again and again, never giving ground to the other. The metal of Naruto's staff clashed with the solidified electricity that was Sasuke Uchiha's power, their clash pushing away anything and everything on high as they spun and clashed repeatedly with one another yet again, a dance of death and overwhelming might shared between two exalted forces of nature. Thick lightning sparked off Sasuke's spear and crashed through the air and ignited the skies with crimson electricity. Naruto barely dodged out of the way of the attack. Thrust, block, swipe, parry. They fought relentlessly in their duel and it truly was dazzling. With a jumping spin, he extended his staff and slammed it down, missing his adversary by a breadth, where he rolled out of the way of a spear thrust that would have carved his head from shoulder. They bashed the shafts of their weapons into one another, a wave of sparks filling the air, forcing them to stumble a step back. Sasuke spun and kicked out and pushed his enemy back where he then spun around, rotating his weapon as they slammed them into one another. Thrust, spin, smash, spin, clash, parry, spin, clash. They spun and clashed in a dance of death before they struck out and missed one another by the breadth of a hair, their respective weapons whirling around in a glorious display of martial arts unequaled to any other as they spun and clashed in a dance of mastery before they struck out and held their respective weapon up to the other's chest. Tell me something, Naruto. Will you relent and allow your anger to be sated? The pretty boy emo questioned. Or will you continue down the path of destruction you seem content with carving out of my family's back? He asked the blonde. If it is the second, then none shall save you now, he stated. Naruto lowered his staff, chuckled as he grasped the spear. Dear brother, your edge needs honing, he remarked somewhat disappointed, watching as Sasuke grasped his spear and jabbed it towards Naruto, who didn't even flinch at his movement, and then grinned. Good, I was in need of a back scratcher, he snarled as they swung at one another once more to engage in battle. And once more they clashed, their fight continuing to push them around the ruined arena as they continued to fight on. Sasuke then spun around, putting everything he had into a swing with his spear, clashing with Naruto's staff that erupted in a wave of electric energy that shot across the skies while pushing the golden-haired Uzumaki slightly back. Still, the two young men carried on with their duel, their weapons continuing to clash upon their master's will as they themselves clashed in combat, the display of their prowess watched by many. Thrust, smash, clash, parry, spin, clash, smash, thrust, smash, spin. Sasuke managed to firmly grasp his spear as Naruto's grip held to his staff and they met in the middle, allowing for Sasuke to be able to get a hold of that insufferable staff and flinging his opponent away only to grunt as he had to block his enemy's attack as he was pushed back when Naruto elongated it. Calling upon his elemental power, he channeled it through the edge of his spear, lightning crackling across the sky as he charged the blonde Uzumaki with a cry, "Yergh!" and clashed once again. The entire audience felt as if they were going to blow away in an instant. A astonishingly large shockwave of lightning and wind pressure was unleashed and bathed the entire arena in its presence. Naruto grunted as he slid backwards upon the ground, stumbling several steps as he tried to regain his balance. The entire world seemed to fight against itself. The heavens clashed and sparked with lightning, while at the same time the entire stadium was shaking as if caught in an earthquake, with Naruto and Sasuke acting as the epicenter. The long spear of electric energy that Sasuke had crafted using his quirk, one that was usually unbreakable, snapped apart like brittle paper. Sasuke grunted as his weapon broke apart, and stumbled back in surprise before he gazed upon the ruined weapon, blunted as he stated as he turned his gaze back towards the blonde Uzumaki while throwing it down across the earth beneath his feet to let it disperse. The skies rumbled and darkened as massive storms brewed above the two. The audience turned their gazes up to watch a storm brew from nothing, and then gazed back at Sasuke as he raised his arm above him, the sky blazing with crimson lightning as storm clouds gathered above and struck around them. "Our battles always wear down my edge," he declared ecstatically at the blonde he called rival. And from the skies, a massive shaft of lightning descended, igniting in crimson electrons as the Uchiha clutched it in his grasp and grinned eagerly at his friend. The newly created sword had various outcroppings and was seemingly demonic in appearance for the audience, swinging it about before slicing downwards, a cut that ripped the ground apart with ease, with massive surges of red lightning rising up around him, shook the arena once again as Sasuke slammed it down. Sasuke, speaking in eagerness and excitement for the battle to come, "This one should suit you well," he boldly claimed, and with a leap blast of electricity and a grunt of surprise, the audience watched as Sasuke's blade of energy sliced down, biting into Naruto's shoulder, the angered blonde grabbing a hold of his arm with his seared flesh and held him in place for a punch to be thrown. However, it didn't even stagger the Uchiha heir as he inhaled deeply and roared. A spark of lightning ignited the winds he wanted to breathe, but instead unleashed an unending sea of flame, bathing the Uzumaki in crimson fire that burned hotter than the sun itself. The crowd gasped in shock and horror, Toshinori gripping his armrests hard enough to nearly shatter them. "How is he doing that? I thought his quirk was atmokinesis," Ochako questioned. "He used lightning to ignite the air he breathed out," Karen said in observation. A stream of oxygen meeting a spark of electricity was almost like a match meeting gas, she stated in shock and awe. "Young Naruto!" Toshinori exclaimed in panic as the crowd cried out in more shock when Sasuke repeated his action yet again. Rather than destroy his opposition, it only served to piss the blonde Uzumaki off, seeing as he grabbed Sasuke's robe and headbutted him and kicked him away as he stumbled back to let his wounds recover. A deep chuckle reverberated through the air. "Not bad, old friend," Sasuke said as he watched as Naruto's flesh quickly mended itself in front of everyone watching the fight. "Now this is a fight. Show me what you can truly do. Don't hold back anymore," he jeered as Naruto snarled in pain at him. Those funking flames hurt. Leaping at Sasuke, the battle engaged once more as he smashed 3 strikes into the red-eyed fighter's face, causing him to stumble with a cry of pain. Snarling, Sasuke swung widely, forcing Naruto to roll under his swipe before turning around once again to throw a haymaker that leveled the ground around them. A backhanded punch was Sasuke's response, but it didn't stop the battle in the slightest. An uppercut was returned in full force that it crushed several teeth in the Uchiha's mouth as blood filled the air as the young man stumbled back from the hit. Catching Naruto's next punch, he tried to cut down with his crimson blade, only for Naruto's hand to catch it. The two warriors pushing against one another with such force the ground at their feet split apart before Sasuke quickly headbutted the blonde and then grabbed a shoulder to spin around and throw him away with a snarl. "Harem!" Using a single hand to perform the act. Massive slabs of uprooted cement were crushed underneath the Uzumaki while he rolled over his shoulder and clambered back to his feet, where he quickly came to a stop and growled at Sasuke in response. Suddenly and very unexpectedly, Naruto opted to raise a foot up and slammed it down upon the ground, causing the arena to shake from the force. 12 feet of cement was openly torn apart, and as Naruto then reached down and pulled out a monolithic pillar of cement that was wrapped around and attached to a thick steel I-beam. With a harsh tug as he grasps it in his hands with a growl, he rips it the remainder of the way out. With a spin, the improvised weapon is slammed into Sasuke's face, causing it to crumble apart as Sasuke cried out and stumbled back, only for Naruto to spin the broken pillar and bash in Sasuke's face once again before following up with a jumping spin that crashed down on Sasuke's head and shattered it entirely. With a snarl that shook the arena and threatened to tear it apart, Naruto then slammed his hands down and into the basin and grunted as he strained to lift his next prize. The ground ignited as electric sparks burst and fire spewed forth, and chunks of arena floor were obliterated as he began to lift up his weapon of choice, the arena foundation itself. An entire semi-truck's worth roughly equal to a fully stocked truck and trailer itself was torn up from beneath their feet. Raising the mass of land up, the blonde Uzumaki growled as he shouldered the mass of rocks and let his back take the brunt of the weight, his legs bending to take the immense weight of the stone mass as he placed it above his heads, and with a strained roar, he hurled it at Sasuke, who could only swing his sword desperately to cut the massive stone apart, only to feel his eyes widen when he saw his opponent and rival right behind it, arm drawn back ready to hit him. So this was the power of the Uzumaki clan. Naruto was truly a worthy opponent indeed. The strike hit true, ripping Sasuke off the ground and hurled him through the air, through chunks of cement and other sections of the arena, where he slammed into the wall and slid down it before he finally came to a stop at last. Naruto watched as Sasuke hit the wall and slid down, a grin working its way on his face. However, his victory was short-lived before an abrupt and sharp pain gripped his head, causing him to cry out as he fell down, grabbing at the tight band wrapped around his head. Tashinori and the girls were already making their way down to celebrate with him when they saw him cry out in pain. "Naruto!" Ochako exclaimed in worry as she watched him fall. "Are you okay, young Naruto?" Tashinori questioned in slight worry. Karen sighed as she pulled her sleeve up and pushed them away. "I told you this would happen, didn't I?" she asked as she kneeled next to her cousin. "Bite me, it'll alleviate the aching," she told him, but Naruto continued to try and push the loop up and off to no avail. With a sigh, and a silent grumble under her breath, she grabbed her cousin and opened his mouth, where she then forced him to bite her, where a light glow of green energy wrapped around his head, focused on easing the agony he was currently in. There, should help out just enough for the bind to weaken its grip on him, she said as she wiped her arm and pulled her sleeve down. "So, what's going to happen now?" Ochako asked curiously. "Well, the loop will loosen up in time, should be in a couple minutes, and he'll be fine," the redhead answered. "Thank goodness," Tashinori muttered silently. "Let's get him out of here before people start asking questions," Ochako said as she and Karen grabbed him by the arms and led him to the locker room. 1 hour later. "So, that loop's still causing issues?" Tashinori, now in his normal form, asked his protege. "Nah, usually stops hurting after about 5 or so minutes and vanishes." Naruto shook his head. "That's good to hear, so I assume you're fine now?" "Yeah." Naruto nodded. "All good on my side." "That's good," Tashinori said. He wasn't sure where to take the conversation before an idea popped into his mind. "Listen, young Naruto, there's a gathering for some of the older pro heroes. Tashinori began, only for his student to interrupt him. "Yeah, sure, I'll go." The shorter blonde shrugged. "I mean, it could help with me getting to know some of the other heroes before I come out, right? Couldn't hurt," he stated. If only he knew. Fancy party. These aren't my thing, Naruto thought as he looked around, dressed in a stupid tux. At least he thought it was stupid, while standing next to Tashinori, in his All Might form, in his hero outfit. Nagato, aka Pain, wasn't at this party since he was feeling more sick than when he arrived on the island, and decided to stay at his hotel room. The problem with his poor health was now Naruto's problem, since he wasn't good in these types of places. 4 hours. They had been at the party for 4 hours, with different scientists going up on stage to make speeches and make private demonstrations of their own inventions that only those in the room would see. They would talk about things they were working on to help heroes and civilians' lives get easier, talking about the common stuff like quirk assistance and quirk controlling, the normal scientist things. "All Might, it's been years, Cal lady, I haven't seen you since I was in college. How have you been?" All Might exclaimed as an older woman greeted him. She had a healthy body, but wrinkles were visible around her eyes and her large breasts were showing age as well, something that she was using no doubt a push-up bra to support. Wearing a revealing cowgirl's outfit, it was clear what her quirk was, with large cow horns coming from her head. Once blonde hair was now littered with gray. A woman her age dressing like that? Naruto thought as he saw just how revealing her clothes were, and his eyes turned deadpan. "How is Electroplant doing? Has he been okay?" All Might asked her, and she covered her mouth and laughed. "Oh, he is with the grandkids." Naruto ignored what was going on and started to walk away while he had the chance, since a lot of pro heroes had been giving him an All Might critical eyes. He could see them comparing the two of them to each other, and Naruto would rather that not be the case. The two of them looked rather similar, which was something that he had seen David doing as he bee-pies the two of them as well. I hope this doesn't turn into a rumor. I'm proud of being Dad's son. Naruto thought to himself as he thought about his actual father, a hero who gave his life to save others. He didn't want people to assume that his mother had an affair with his father, or that there was some complicated mess in his family history. Naruto, over here. David called out to him as he was passing by the table he was sitting at, and Naruto glanced to see a young woman about 2 or so years older than him, maybe 15 years old, sitting next to him. Curvy body, blonde wavy hair and blue eyes, glasses, and wearing a rather nice dress that complemented her form. David's daughter, Melissa Shield. Naruto glanced at All Might, surrounded by other heroes who were all, before he shrugged his shoulders and sat down next to Melissa and in sight of David. Want a glass of wine? Don't worry, I won't tell anyone, David jokingly said as he tried to tease Naruto, who saw Melissa was drinking the fruit punch and not the wine. Well, I guess time for introductions. Naruto, this is my daughter Melissa, and this is All Might's boy. David introduced his daughter to the young hero in training, the girl gracefully extending a hand to Naruto. It's nice to meet you, Naruto-K. Naruto raised a hand. Just Naruto, you're not Japanese, and I'm barely Japanese, you don't need to add any suffix to my name. Naruto stopped her as she was trying to be polite. He didn't like that. He didn't like suffixes in the first place all that much. His family barely ever used them if at all possible, despite all the remaining Uzumaki being in Japan, while not counting the old drunk who was gambling away her family pride in America. Nice to meet you, I guess you a genius too? Naruto glanced at one of the most intelligent men in the world, wondering if her daughter had inherited his brain. She smiled sheepishly. My grades aren't amazing, but I'm working really hard to learn everything I can. I've still got a long way to go. Melissa was a humble girl, and her answer was just as humble as she was apparently. She's quickly improving though. You two will work together a lot in the future, I hope. One day, I hope that she can be the one to make your costumes, just like how I helped All Might. David looked at his daughter, visible pride in his eyes and audible love in his voice. The man adored his daughter very much. It was amazing to see, honestly. Naruto felt jealous that Melissa was raised by such a loving father. I would love to. I've started some research on nanotech that might be able to withstand all of Uncle Might's strength, but that is a long way away for me. Melissa spoke of her ongoings as well. Naruto felt annoyed by how humble she was. Listen, if you're awesome or something, own up to it. The geezer over there brought me here to meet the two of you, so you've got to be pretty amazing. You need to be more confident in your potential. Look at me, I'm pretty freaking awesome. Naruto gestured with a thumb to his chest, pointing at her with his other hand. She seemed visibly surprised at his bold declaration, but she giggled into her hand, and even David seemed to find something amusing about the way that Naruto proclaimed that. Just like Toshinori. This really was Toshinori's boy. I think you might want to be more open about how pretty amazing you are, Melissa. Looks like Naruto sees in you what I do. David nudged his daughter a little, and she blushed a little as she was surrounded by the praise. He even threw in some light teasing towards Naruto as well, by using his words to praise her. Naruto just sank into his chair, as a plate with a steak on it was dropped in front of him by a waiter. A few alarms in the building started to go on. What? Did something happen? Melissa stood up from her seat, while David joined her instantly, and he pulled out his phone and opened it up. Naruto sat a diagram of the tower they were in on the phone, which part of it glowing red. David seemed visibly confused. Naruto picked up on it though. That room was the room where I met him. That is his personal lab. Looks like whatever happened is quickly moving through the vents now too. Naruto glanced at David's phone and saw whatever had happened was quickly moving downwards towards them all, using the vents as a passageway. Naruto just shrugged his shoulders since this was a room with a ton of pro heroes in it, so he wasn't that concerned about anything that could happen. David glanced over at All Might, who seemed concerned when he started to cough into his hand, and glanced over at David, the two making eye contact. Not good. Something broke out of my lab, and Toshi is reaching his time limit, combined with how much he has been in his muscle form today, and the 4 hours he's been at the party, he won't be able to help if this gets really bad. David looked at his friend in worry, before he visibly calmed down when he looked down at an unfazed Naruto. He calmed down as well when he realized that Naruto was here too. 14 or not, the boy was his friend's son with a similar quirk to his friend. He could handle this, even if his father couldn't fight. This isn't my problem. Naruto thought as he took a bite of the steak. Good steak. Nobody worry. Everything is under control. Whatever it is will be here, so if all non-pro heroes can please evacuate to the safety room, this will be handled shortly. David announced loud enough to the rest of the scientists around, and the civilians who had gotten the chance to see the displays. Naruto got up to leave. Still not my problem. Naruto, if you would stay, we might need you if things get out of control and All Might times out. David nodded to his daughter while talking to Naruto, letting her know that she could stay, that it would be safe enough. Naruto shrugged his shoulders and sat back down. The steak was fresh and not something he could eat a lot of in Japan, since beef was so expensive. He would enjoy eating good food while he could. Whatever, still not going to be my problem. Naruto thought casually, spinning his knife in hand. Wow, he's so calm about this, he must be really strong, just like Uncle Might. Melissa glanced down at Naruto. But that was when black and red slime started to drip out of the vents, and onto the floor in the middle of the room. I mean Project Kurama? David asked himself in surprise when he saw his own project dripping out of the vents. That didn't make any sense, and the other heroes in the room weren't making any sense of what they should be doing either. Should they be attacking the mechanical slime, or wait until it all dripped out of the vents and trap it in a bottle, or something? They expected a villain, not slime. It was multiplying on the ground, and several red eyes formed on the surface of the slime and began looking around the room, looking for registered body. Registered body. I never registered a body to it. What could it be talking about? Project Kurama, you're not programmed to anybody yet. Stand down, and go back to your containment. You don't have body located. Kurama's 20 searching eyes all focused on a single target, all of the eyes merging together, and forming two larger eyes that singled in on one target. Naruto locked eyes with it. Shit, this just became a personal problem. Naruto realized quickly that he was the target of the quickly growing thing as sharp spikes formed along its body and shot out towards him, still connected to the main body. Several pro heroes started to run towards it, but even when they punched it, nothing happened since its body was just billions of tiny multiplying machines. Young Naruto, don't worry, I won't let it take you. Naruto flipped the table as the spikes embedded themselves in it instead of him. Eyes off target, now starting genetic code tracking. Kurama's eyes vanished from its body as it slimed its way across the room, tracking Naruto by his genetic code down that it had been able to see him and B-pies him. B-piesing Quirk, B-pieces done. Kurama toned out as it ignored David and Melissa both as it greatly expanded its body and surrounded the table, devouring the table, hiding Naruto whole. All Might shot a large jet of pressurized air with his fist, punching the air and knocking Kurama away from Naruto as he appeared next to the boy. David, what's going on? That is your experiment. Why is it attacking young Naruto? All Might asked as he raised up his fists, noticing that Kurama quickly put itself back together and started to grow in size until it was greater in height than All Might was. David looked at Naruto, looking down at the knife in his hand. Earlier I might have accidentally reprogrammed it. When I had the costume design program opened up, I took a picture of Naruto and registered his visual appearance. I must have accidentally corrupted Kurama's program to cause it to target the person who was pictured, and now it has B-pies Naruto's DNA after seeing him in person, though I don't know how the two programs fusing together will affect it. David was not one of the world's smartest men for nothing. Quickly going over what he had done today in his head, he did remember when he could have corrupted its programming. He had, for a small amount of time, changed softwares while he had been programming Kurama. He had labeled Naruto, smack, the person to smack him upside the head. Bad scientist, no, don't make evil creatures. Naruto lectured the scientist with deadened eyes as All Might threw another punch to push back Kurama. Naruto sighed to himself, before he took the knife and cut into the palm of his hand. Naruto stabbed his hand deep enough to cover the knife in his blood. Hey, basic bitch of RPG Maker monsters, follow this. Naruto shouted as he threw the blood-covered knife across the room. Tracking DNA. It followed the knife, and Naruto grabbed another knife from a different table and stabbed himself again. Everyone winced when they saw him do that the second time, and the wound healed within seconds as Naruto's wounds healed over. Naruto threw the knife, and Kurama chased the second knife as well, since it was the DNA that was moving at the time. Though, Naruto's plan became extremely apparent when everyone saw what he was doing consistently. As Naruto passed by tables, he continued to grab and collect knives to stab himself with. He B-pies the situation, realized it was attracted to his DNA, and then decided to he's luring it towards the stage. There are restraint devices in the stage. But how did he know about he saw my phone? David mentally applauded Naruto's quick thinking as he lured the creation towards the stage. Naruto had, for a split second, seen his phone and saw all of the safety programs on it. He got his phone back out, and prepared to remotely activate the holding devices when Kurama got onto the stage. Other heroes in the room didn't hold back on clapping though. They were all simply impressed by the quick thinking of the young man. Genetic material assimilated, processors working at 100%, data storage increasing, mental link establishing, bonding process beginning. Kurama continued to chase the bloody knives as Naruto threw them onto the stage. Holes in the stage opened up, and glowing blue restraints shot up out of it and wrapped around Kurama, halting the man-made monster in its tracks, David having activated the trap the second that Kurama was in the right spot. Naruto looked down at Kurama, before he looked over at David. Good work, young Naruto, that was. Kurama was a multi-formed machine. As such, restraints of this nature wouldn't hold it, as Naruto quickly learned when he lost his right arm. Screams of horror among some of the heroes who couldn't handle gore were heard, as Naruto glanced down with some shock at his own missing arm. Kurama had ripped his arm off as it escaped, and while Naruto was still bleeding, it latched itself onto his bleeding stump and started to surround his body. Shit! David exclaimed in horror. Quickly, get it off him! David and All Might were the first ones running towards the stage to try and help Naruto, though his entire body had been surrounded by Kurama, no longer visible. Kurama started to shrink in size though as they got to the stage. They couldn't do anything. All Might tried to reach into Kurama to pull Naruto out, but he was firmly stuck. Young Naruto! Kurama started to jerk around violently around Naruto's body though, before it started to melt into a pool of inactive nanomachines, leaving a nanomachine-covered Naruto in the middle of it, taking deep breaths of air. That was unpleasant. Got my arm back though. Naruto staged as he showed he was holding his right arm. Yes, this is a medical emergency. Melissa stopped when Naruto popped his arm back into place. The severed arm started to quickly heal back into its proper place, steam coming out of the two parts as the once severed arm was quickly returned back to its normal place. What? As long as my arm still has my blood in it, and then I can reattach it. I just have to put it back where it belongs. Can't grow it back though if I can't find my missing arm. Naruto admitted that this wasn't his first rodeo here. This was actually the third time he had lost an arm, and each time he just had to reattach it by simply putting it back where it belonged on his body, which his natural healing would take up for him. His arm still had his quirk in it, and if he could get some blood flowing into the arm and back out, then his body and arm would reattach. Melissa hung up her phone, while everyone else just started to clap. Are you okay, Naruto? You don't feel weird or anything? David asked as he got down to Naruto's level and tried to see if he could find anything wrong with Naruto on the outside, merging complete fixing and repairing clothes using body shift technique. I didn't say that, Naruto stated as Kurama's deep programmed voice came out of his body, even though he wasn't moving his mouth. Naruto's clothes started to change color though, his tux turning red and black to match with Kurama's design, absorbing the clothes and fitting his body much more closely than before. Great! Kurama's programs had been corrupted and merged with Naruto's body, copied his quirk, and now it was using it to fix and modify his clothing. Great! Now he had a self-repairing tuxedo, something he hated. Why couldn't he be wearing something better? Like his normal clothes, shifting clothes into normal clothes. Naruto's tuxedo changed shape and color, shifting themselves so that they were changed into the clothes that he usually wore. Naruto blinked for a moment and looked down at himself, David covering his mouth in surprise since Kurama's programming had changed from its original purpose to becoming a personal costume. Well, at least you won't need to worry about getting new costumes in the future, Toshinori stated to Naruto, trying to find the bright side. Naruto gave him a sharp look. He wisely shut up. How are you holding up? The baritone voice of his mentor asked. How do you expect? Naruto asked All Might with a bored tone. All of the physical training he was going through wasn't helping him all that much. His body was already amazingly toned and athletic thanks to the fact he already had been training to become a hero, even before meeting All Might. It had been his dream since he was as young as 4, so naturally he spent a lot of time working towards it. Of course, currently the pro hero All Might was in his skinny form, so Naruto wasn't addressing him as All Might at all. That was for multiple reasons, to be honest. Not great. The young heroine in training huffed out in exhaustion. Hurry up, Ochako, Naruto stated with a grin on his face. He was carrying over twice his body weight over his body with added-on weights, and though he had been cut to less than half of his normal speed, he was still moving slightly faster than Ochako was. She was sweating more heavily than he was, and was wearing sweatpants and a normal t-shirt. She had sweat stains under her boobs and under her pits, and overall wasn't in a great condition. Don't get the wrong idea, she was a healthy and toned girl, athletic as she was bubbly, but she just couldn't compete with Naruto's physical condition. She refused to believe that his stamina was related to anything other than his quirk. The golden-haired monkey boy was like the damned Energizer bunny on cocaine and steroids. It honestly had nothing to do with his quirk though. I'm not fat. I'm just not in as great a shape as you. Ochako pushed herself to keep running at her current speed, since while she didn't have any added weight to her, running for 2 hours was still something her body was not suited for. They had yet to take a break, and she had joined Naruto and Toshinori when she saw Naruto leaving the apartment building in a track suit. Yagi-san, you said that you work for All Might, right? Ochako asked as she slowed down even more while talking. She started to speed up and slow down depending on if she were talking or not. Yes, I file his paperwork for him. I'm his top office worker, though I like to keep physically fit. He asked me to go jogging with Naruto, Toshinori stated, and Naruto just raised an eyebrow at him. Why not just come clean and tell Ochako that he was All Might, without revealing his quirk or any of the major details? The need to keep his muscle and shrunken form separate wasn't really needed when Naruto and Ochako were good friends. You're going to love running the way back, Naruto told Ochako, and she groaned. That sucks, hero training sucks, but I need it. Ochako was working for the hero dream too, and she was going to have to take the entrance exams unlike Naruto, who was getting in on the recommendation of 2 different people, David Shield and Nagato Uzumaki, All Might's costume designer and legendary scientist, and the puppet hero, Pain, were both people who could give recommendations worth getting a person into UA. While All Might didn't want to give Naruto any special treatment, it would seem that sentiment did not extend to David and Nagato. Nagato planned on giving you a recommendation for Naruto anyway. He was powerful. His quirk was uniquely gifted for combat, meaning his potential to fight against those who were not the normal law-abiding citizen or hero were in for a rough time. Add in the fact that he was a sports competitor allowed for many sponsors to watch, meaning David could be seen as a technical sponsor, as he had witnessed Naruto's one-sided dishing of punishment towards the narcissistic Uchiha clan, which was usually a major no-no in any fashion. But assurances from the head of the Uchiha Yakuza family allowed Naruto to breathe easier. 3 of the brothers were undergoing rehabilitation therapy again. Itachi was stepping away from the family's activities. Apparently he wanted to become a lawyer for quirk crime, and he had even apologized to Naruto for the illicit language towards his family. Apparently Fugaku had been watching the fight and found that his sons were in need of a stern lesson of humility, but was only capable of punishing 2 of his 5 sons. Izuna and Shursui were going to receive a larger punishment when their stay at the hospital was said and done. Sasuke expressed his desire to try and become a hero himself, but at the same time, he also wanted to stay and take over his family's business at the same time. Naruto was pulled from his thoughts on the Uchihas when Ochako huffed towards him. How can you do this so easily? In a demanding tone. If it's that much of a hassle, I'll carry you on the way back, Naruto offered Ochako with a shrug. He didn't mind, she was working harder than she usually would to keep up with him. When they started to run, she had been going faster than him for over 45 minutes, as he had been weighed down. Then as time went on, her speed just got worse and worse until she wasn't really much competition for him even with the added weight. Toshinori saw storm clouds beginning to gather, and he felt a couple of raindrops fall down. The early signs of a heavy rain, so he looked back at Naruto. Naruto, you really did work really hard even before meeting me. Your quirk is perfectly suited to battle, but you were never able to see how far your limits could reach, so you trained yourself to be able to fight people without needing a quirk for battle. Toshinori glanced back at Naruto, barely even breaking a sweat. He had to admit that he was rather amazed by how determined Naruto must have been ever since he was a child, because it was certainly showing with how even this training and preparation for receiving one for all wasn't doing much. He would say that as Naruto was right now, his body would be able to handle using at least 45% or 50% of his quirk from the beginning. Here, let's stop and avoid the rain, Toshinori started, but then a crash of thunder sounded, and seconds later the rain started to completely pour down on them. Or we could just get rained on before I finish my sentence. he muttered. They were all soaked before they could escape into the nearest convenience store. Toshinori's phone started to ring, causing him to stop as he pulled it out to answer it. The pro hero listened to the speaker on the other end for a few moments before he hung up. Naruto, Uraraka-san, you two go on home. I've got some business to do. Do you have enough money for a bus or train? Toshinori reached into his pocket, prepared to give them both the money to take whatever transportation they needed home. He had some important work he needed to go do, that he had forgotten to do in the first place because he was excited to be able to go jogging with Naruto. What do you mean I can't advertise my babies here? A familiar voice demanded angrily. Funk, a refreshing run in the rain doesn't sound so bad to me, Naruto stated as he waved off Toshinori's money. He really didn't like hearing that voice. Speak for yourself. I think taking a train sounds great, right about. Ochako was stunned when she looked at the sound of the voice while she was speaking, and when she saw the girl, her eyes widened for a second. Boobs, bigger than her own boobs by a fair amount for sure, and they were currently in a drenched shirt that clung to them. She had nicely sized and shaped boobs, but these boobs blew her out of the water for sure. She looked at Naruto, and then down at her own shirt, seeing that her sports bra was already visible, but it was a sports bra so it didn't matter. That girl wore no bra, meaning she shouldn't let Naruto see this girl right now. As for why, she didn't really know, she just didn't want Naruto to see the girl's almost revealed boobs. Ah! That rain came out of nowhere! Another voice exclaimed in shock as a skinny kid with dark green hair came running into the building with his book bag over his head. He was smiling to himself, and quickly turned bright red when he saw Mei Hatsum, and he avoided going into that part of the store. Come on, I even tested these babies out at the expo recently. They work for sure, you can let me advertise them to people. These goggles, and this hero supplement equipment would be great for your store to show off. Mei told the cashier. Hero supplement equipment, I want to see that. The boy with freckles and green hair had sparkling eyes as he looked towards the girl. Naruto leaned towards Ochako. Let's sacrifice him, and make our escape. That girl is batshit crazy. I saw her at the expo, and there is little she won't do to show off her inventions. Her stuff blew up on me when I wanted a headband. Naruto whispered to Ochako, and she was surprised, before she nodded her head. It would seem that Naruto didn't want to be caught up in that girl's chaos, and didn't even want to be noticed by her. I can respect her spirit, but she has a complete lack of care for her own body and the bodies of others. That kid showing any interest in her inventions. Naruto could see the kid being sacrificed so that he could escape as his best method for getting out of here without exploding. But then, Naruto's inner goodness decided to rear its ugly head. Oh, what is this? The boy asked as he looked at an invention that Mei was showing off, and Naruto gripped his hand into a shaking fist as he tried to resist the urge to save the boy. Oh, this is my wrist-mounted pressure cannon. By sucking in air and pressurizing it, it will shoot the air out of the back of it, and make punches and kicks faster than before. Made for any hero with low physical strength. Boo, this is so interesting. Can this help a guy without a quirk to keep up with people that have quirks? The boy asked with a glint in his eye. Mei grinned. I don't see why not. Since you've got hope in those eyes, you must be a quirkless loser that wants to keep up with the rest of society. Mei stated an absolutely destructive line with zero understanding that the boy's face dropped like a sack of bricks into a river. Mei attached her device to the boy's wrists without any hesitation, seeing as since I don't have a proper test subject right now, she prattled on about her things happily to the boy as if he were some special work case. Yup, that settled it. Naruto did not feel even slightly bad that he turned her down. His beep might want to bone her, but his brain let him know that he didn't want to go down that route, no matter how stacked her chest was. He had been avoiding her phone calls like crazy. The nude she sent not so much what, good fap material was hard to come by, and he was a teenage boy. I can be your test subject. I want to become a hero more than anything, and if I can use this equipment to make up for being quirkless, I'll do it. The boy spoke with the sparkle in his eyes returned. Ochako smiled and turned to Naruto as they scooted away from Mei's view. He reminds me of you almost. Not only that, but we seem like about the same age as him. Ochako could remember Naruto wanting to be a hero. Having a quirk that was able to virtually control any form of molecular structure or bond was all but guaranteed to be hero material. Ironically enough, Naruto's great-uncle Ashina was one of the best combatants in history and had once been called the Raging Monster for his quirk alone. Ashina Uzumaki had possessed an incredibly useful quirk, but in a sense he was seen as all but quirkless. However, the man had trained himself to fight the best of them, and was heralded as one of the best. That was why Naruto spent so much time training, because despite his quirk was so incredibly powerful compared to everyone else's quirk, he didn't know how to truly use it in a fight. He could use it in a variety of ways, but he was unable to harness it as he normally would if he hadn't been stopped by Mito. Oh, that sounds like a great deal to me. Use my babies all you want to become a hero. In exchange for being my test subject, you can use all the prototypes I make. May offered the boy. You seem smart to recognize how great my babies are, so I'm sure that everything will work out in the end. Actually, you being a quirkless loser makes this even better. It allows me to show off the fact that my babies are super awesome. May spared no punches against this kid at all, preparing to use his dream to be a hero to her own advantage to allow her to make her inventions even more popular. Naruto wanted to cry. He was too late. He had been unable to save this poor kid from the craziness that was Mayhatsum. The boy had been far too eager, and he had been too slow in his reaction. Thank you? I'm Izuku Midoriya. Poor Izuku, he didn't know what he was getting himself into. Let's get out of here. Naruto started to take off his jacket, and he tossed it on top of Ochako's head so that she could be better protected from the rain. She nodded her head and climbed up onto his back and let him grasp onto her thighs. She used her arms to make the jacket cover the two of them and shield them from the rain. And just like that, we have formed a hero team. Heavy Violence, Naruto declared as he grinned at the stupid name. The opposite of zero gravity was heavy. The opposite of helping was violence. It was a stupid name that took the opposite of their quirks and put them together to form a stupid hero team name, but he liked it anyway. It did take their personalities into account though. Onward then, my trusted steed, Ochako called out as Naruto started to run. Thus Team Heavy Violence was born. All heroes needed team names when they worked together with each other, and two young heroes in training would naturally start to name their teams before they even started to be real heroes. They didn't even get 30 feet out of the convenience store before the rain got 5 times heavier than it started out, and they got completely and utterly soaked to the bone. Later, I warned you to take an umbrella, Ochako-chan. Your parents will be home late because of the storm. You can use our shower and stay for dinner, Naruto. Since you're a boy, I expect you to wait until Ochako-chan is done before taking a shower. Yes, Granny Mito. Naruto and Ochako were completely soaked. Mito had a smug yet kind smile that she showed them since she had warned Naruto to take an umbrella with him when he went running. Her old bones had been aching, so she knew a bad storm was on its way. Youngsters needed to listen to their elders. Several months would pass, nothing major would happen, and things moved on as normal. Then, Naruto had received a call. Come to the hospital. Seemed important, and he was curious why he was being asked to come to the hospital. Maybe Nagato had an accident and needed help talking? So are we going to the hospital? Ochako wasn't sure why she was going with Naruto to the hospital. Of course, she was sure that she saw the eyes on his clothes blink as she asked that question, but she ignored it as a trick of her eyes. She had noticed this too, but no matter what clothes Naruto wore, there always seemed to be a red eye design somewhere on it. His clothes looked a lot newer than before too, but she would just guess that Naruto was taking better care of his clothes now. Don't know, got a call. They said that it would be better not to go alone. Ugh, I hate hospitals, they smell so natural. Naruto shivered when they walked into the front of the building. He hated them with a passion, since he had never had a good experience with one before. He hated them with a passion. Naruto, that you, Conan? Naruto asked as he looked for the source of the voice. One of the people that Nagato worked with and was close with. A woman who went by the hero name Paper Hero, Angelwing, real name Conan. He heard her voice, and he could guess that she was sitting in the reception room. Naruto looked at her. She had a visibly broken arm, and bandages around her right eye, with her left eye puffy and bruised up. Injuries of this level happen to heroes from time to time, but usually heroes as powerful as Conan avoided such injuries. Hell, she was a candidate for the top 10 heroes for her quirk alone. His eyes widened a little at the extent of her injuries. Since she had identified him by voice and not sight, he could tell that she wasn't able to see much of anything at the moment. Conan! What happened? Ochako shouted in surprise, and Conan took the chance to stand up and limp towards them. She could still stand. There was an incident with a villain. He managed to get the drop on us as we were chasing down a man who kidnapped Karen. I don't know what happened to Nagato. I passed out when the villain blew himself up when we captured him. Conan gave a summary of the situation. She had taken a lot of damage, but she was mostly fine. Her vision was never going to completely recover in her right eye, but she would still have some vision. She was going to make a near full recovery, other than some slight vision issues. Still, she felt nothing but shame. Nagato's niece had been kidnapped by a villain, while another villain managed to stop them from getting her back before it was too late. Her injuries recovering meant nothing when Nagato had lost a family member, when they had almost none of them left. It was just him, Mito, Karen, and Naruto. That was all that remained of their clan now, and since Karen's kidnapper got away, it could be assumed they might never see her alive again. Ochako flinched when she saw Naruto's face. What happened to Karen? He growled, a stern expression shown as he heard the words. It was the cannibal villain Moonfish that escaped with her. I'm sorry we couldn't get to her. I'm sure that Nagato will need his family next to him when he gets here. Conan hadn't seen Nagato yet, but since he wasn't a patient at the hospital, he must have escaped the explosion and decided to give chase to the kidnappers. It was doubtful he would catch them though. Uzumaki were tough bastards, even a crippled Uzumaki like Nagato, even an elderly Uzumaki like Mito. Naruto was always a hyperactive loon and he fought with heart. The Uzumaki family were as tough as they came. Naruto Uzumaki, I presume, can I get you a cup of tea? Please take a seat. A police officer came up to them politely. I would love. Ochako started. Who died? Naruto asked roughly, with a deep frown on his face. Conan gasped when she made the sudden realization of what Naruto being at the hospital at all meant. She would have just assumed he was here for a checkup, and it was a coincidence that she happened to catch him while waiting for Nagato, but then that meant Nagato wasn't coming. Please, sit down, Uzumaki-san. I want to keep this as calm for you as possible. I'm sure that this won't be a happy experience for you, so take as long as you need. I need you to identify a body. I took a few pictures for you to look at. We would prefer not to make anything official without first confirming. The officer didn't introduce himself, and he purposely didn't have his name tag on. It would seem that he had came prepared for some kind of reaction that might not be good, because he had purposely left his gun off of his body as well. He was trying to seem as non-threatening as possible. Nagato's not dead. Conan denied as Naruto sat down, Ochako sitting down next to him as a couple of pictures were put down in front of him. Ochako didn't look at the pictures, but Naruto did. Naruto only needed a glimpse to know who it was. Yeah, that's him. That's Nagato Uzumaki, he said stoically. His body was shaking. He didn't want to break down in front of anyone. This wasn't something to make a scene about in a public location. Ochako, I'm going home. Can you stay here for me? Naruto looked at the shocked Conan, unable to comfort her himself. He didn't know what he was feeling. He couldn't explain it properly. He felt a sort of dull numbness as he looked at pictures of Nagato, dead and scorched up. Looking at the pictures, and at Conan, he could tell what happened, and he didn't want to be the one to comfort her. He knew it wasn't her fault at heart, but he refused to be the person who helped her deal with this. Nagato died protecting her, using his frail body to shield her, which meant that his body been rapidly propelled by the explosion to the point it had ended up hurting Conan and then killed him. Aya! Conan wailed in agony, her hands clasping down on the sides of her head as large tears began to fall down her cheeks. Nagato and Conan had grown up together, became heroes together, then a friend had died protecting them when Naruto was a baby. Hell, the fight had required the combined efforts of All Might and several other heroes. In fact, it was when Nagato had started his career and formed the hero team Akatsuki Crimson Moon, to unveil the darkness of evil. Now she was all that remained of that team. Yeah, I'll stay. Ochako knew Naruto barely used her real name like that, and when he did, he was being completely serious with her. His face was filled without an ounce of emotion, but she could almost sense the barely contained rage, and part of it was directed at Conan. His brain might understand that what happened wasn't her fault. His heart was angry with Conan for surviving, while Nagato died. His heart was also happy that Conan survived, that Nagato's sacrifice was not in vain. He didn't know what to feel, but he couldn't comfort her or be around her. He needed to go home and tell Mito what happened, since she knew Nagato for longer than he knew the man. She would take it far more harshly, and he needed to be there for her. Karen was also gone, and they didn't know if she was alive or not. He needed to break the news to her as gently as he could, and he needed to be there for her when she needed him. He needed to be strong. So Naruto walked out of the hospital, leaving behind Ochako and Conan. Naruto didn't look back. Even though he could hear Conan's wails of emotional pain, he needed to be strong, but he wasn't strong enough to ignore his own conflicted heart. The main question on his mind was, why would anyone want to kidnap Karen? Her quirk was not of any use unless a person was injured. Naruto took a deep breath and stopped thinking about it before he started. He needed to focus his thoughts on what he was going to tell Mito. He continued to walk, and he thought about picking up Mito her favorite tea to help soften the blow. He didn't do it though, because as he thought about it, that was a pretty crappy thing to do for somebody. Try to smooth over somebody's death with a favorite food or drink was like saying that their life was only worth the drink. Mito was like his grandmother, she raised him, so he was going to trust that she was strong enough to take the death well. He didn't know how he was going to tell her though. Eventually, before Naruto even realized it, he was home. He had been so caught up in his thoughts, he barely noticed as time passed, and he got to the front door of the apartment. "Granny Mito, I'm home," Naruto stated as he opened the door. She wasn't in the living room, right? This was about the time of day that she would take a shower so that she could refresh herself. Naruto walked across the apartment, and he could hear the water running in the bathroom. He knocked on the door, to let her know that he was there. "Granny Mito, can you hurry up just this once? I've got bad news about Nagato. I want to talk with you face to face though to explain it." Naruto spoke loud enough that she would easily hear him through the door. "Nothing." Naruto took a deep breath. "They'll be waiting in the other room. Take all the time you need to get emotionally ready. I'll be here for you when you come out." Naruto was quieter when he spoke, since he was sure that she got the news. He wouldn't diminish Nagato's death by buying her a gift of tea, but he would make a pot of tea so that she could have something relaxing to drink when everything was told to her. He didn't know what he was doing. His heart and brain were conflicting, and he didn't know what he was supposed to do in this situation. He needed to be strong. Naruto got his phone out and dialed. "This is Nagato's phone. I'm away right now. Please leave me a message and I'll be right there for you." Nagato's voice. "Sorry to bother you, but I'm not sure what to do. Somebody really important to me died, and I need to break the news to Granny Mito. You're a pro hero, so I'm sure you would know what to do right now." Naruto spoke into the phone with a small smile on his face. Naruto hung up, before he dialed again. "This is Nagato's phone. I'm away right now. Please leave me a message and I'll be right there for you." "Is this how you felt when Ma and Pa died? How you explained it to Granny Mito? I'm so sorry you had to go through that. Don't rush to get back to me. I just wanted to let you know that you were like an older brother to me." Naruto continued what he was saying before after getting more strength from Nagato's voice. This was helping him. Being able to hear Nagato's voice, even if it was just a recording, was helping him clear his mind a little. Naruto continued to listen to the recording and talk to it for a while, before the tea started to go off. Naruto got up and poured himself and Mito a cup of tea, before he brought them to the couch and sat down. Time passed, and the tea got cold. "This is Nagato's phone. I'm away right now. Please leave me a message and I'll be right there for you. Nagato, I am scared. Granny Mito's not coming out of the bathroom. I'm scared to try and see if she's okay. Please give me the strength to check." Naruto got the courage to stand up as he walked towards the bathroom. Opening a bathroom door was the difference. It was the difference between a very bad day and the worst day of Naruto's life. The apartment had quiet music playing in the air. It wasn't energetic, but it wasn't mournful either. It was something in the background that reminded them of why they were here. A table had been set up in the parlor, against the wall. It was draped in black cloth. Flowers had been placed on it as a means of respect. Naruto looked at the flowers. Not all of them were from Japan or the Philippines. There were also flowers from China that Mito had favored. There was even one bundle from Hong Kong, delivered by Conan personally. His eyes went up from the flowers to the photos placed there. The pictures were reminders of who he had lost: heroes, family, mentors, guides. One of the pictures showed Nagato sitting with a blonde male with their hands arranged into a peace symbol. Another showed Mito with a pregnant redhead sitting next to the same blonde male. That was all Naruto had of them at the moment, just pictures. "I've been to way too many funerals," he decided. "It could be worse." Kurama added. "What? Kurama? Yes. Why are you talking? How are you talking? I'm a gathering of sophisticated nanomachines with an AI core-based mindset. You are my host, your thoughts give clarity to my voice. We are one and the same. When did this happen?" Naruto demanded. "I have always been able to communicate with you. You just never gave me a reason to speak. Why now, of all times?" "Because I am all you have left, and I cannot perform my duties in protecting you if you end up offing yourself. I ain't killing myself. No, but if you don't allow yourself to let them go, then you are destined for destruction. Feel free to mourn what you have lost, cherish what you had. Thanks, but I feel there is more to this. Karen, the healer, is still very much alive. Wait, you know where she is? No, I am bound to you, and you alone. I am unable to track or locate those I am not programmed to directly fight for. Damn it! Look alive, you have been spacing out for a minute now. He turned around. Everyone was standing in place, waiting on him. He was the one who was supposed to start with a speech of some sort. He didn't have anything written down. Instead, he just spoke from the heart. We are gathered here today to not only remember my great-aunt Mito, he began, but a hero who died doing what he believed was right. Nagato Uzumaki. He started. His voice was almost hollow with how he spoke, but he continued strongly. They both touched each our lives in different ways. They were friends, heroes, and to some they were more than that. Nagato was tasked with protecting his only niece, and he was a devoted guardian that loved wholly. Karen was his duty, and he died trying to make right and sure she was safe. And Grandma Mito, well, she was an old bird with more wisdom than most libraries. However, it was a chore to stop her once she got going, especially when it came to tea. They may have left us, but that doesn't mean that they are not still with us. He looked at the others. Ochako was in the front and Conan stood at the back. I know some of us only knew them briefly, but it feels only right to ask. But would anyone like to say something about one of them? He asked politely. The funeral was small and only those who were invited to the apartment could attend the memorial. Sadly, the Uzumaki family didn't have many friends and Naruto invited all he could to the service. Only about half of them arrived. It was more than enough for Naruto though, cause it showed they cared in some capacity. When it was all said and done, Naruto simply asked for some time to himself so he could mourn on his own. How do you feel, Naruto? Not that different, to be honest. Naruto admitted as he looked down at himself. Toshinori looked down at Naruto, who had grown bigger in the months since. He wished he could have been there for the boy at the funeral, but it had been a very private event he didn't feel he needed to be a part of. Naruto had spent several weeks just shut down. He didn't answer calls or texts, he didn't really speak to anyone as he just stayed home and mourned for the loss of his family. It was much the same for me when my master passed down one for all to me. How have you been feeling emotionally lately? Toshinori wasn't sure how to handle dealing with Naruto. Naruto didn't talk about his family at all, not to him, or even his friend. Naruto refused to speak to anyone who mentioned his family or what his plans were, even to him. Still, he needed to ask how Naruto felt. I don't know. He couldn't understand the emotions. He was usually a happy-go-lucky kid, but with the loss of what amounted to all his family, he had known he was lost on what he should feel. I remember his family once mentioned that an Uzumaki's quirk is tied to emotional responses. Quirk is powered by his emotions, so his most normal emotional response would be anger, like his mother. Toshinori tried to think of an accurate thought to rationalize Naruto's feelings. He noticed that despite Naruto's good heart, he seemed to get angry even more easily than the average person, just like how his family explained that his grand-aunt Mito had to be more prone to calmness, and according to other heroes Nagato had been prone to sadness. Toshinori passed down one for all to Naruto several months earlier than he originally planned for a reason. It also seemed like a good present for the boy as he had recently turned 14, meaning that Naruto had a little over a year to get acclimated to its output and his strength. Toshinori remembered that he was roughly the same age, maybe a little older, when he himself had inherited one for all from his own mentor. Gran Torino wasn't the best of trainers, but he helped him get into shape and readied him for a life of heroism. As he focused, Naruto's thoughts turned to where everything had gone wrong. Hero Killer Stain had helped the cannibal villain in acquiring his cousin. For what purpose, he didn't know. What he did know was this: Moonfish, I am coming for you. Naruto thought as he leaned down and focused his rage. He was going to out Moonfish's heart. He was gonna rip off Stain's head. They were not going to get away with what they had done to him, or his family. His eyes turned blood red. They were going to be the only two people he ever killed. But he also knew he was going to enjoy getting his vengeance against them. He was pulled from his dark thoughts as his new teacher cleared his throat. On this island, nobody is going to get hurt during your time training and using one for all. The symbol of peace stated as he gripped a fist and turned his back to his pupil. To use it, clench your butt cheeks together and just shout out a powerful smash as you unleash a punch. Toshinori turned into his all-might form, and then to show what he meant clenched his cheeks tightly. Naruto looked at him with an annoyed glance for the stupid way he put that, but Naruto still followed the advice. Naruto looked at All Might. No, he decided. No? Toshinori blinked in confusion. He was describing to him how to use one for all in the same manner his own teacher Nana Shimura had done to him. Was he confused or something? No, a punch won't do me any good. Naruto crossed his arms, and despite what he said, he still clenched his butt cheeks together tightly. Spark. Naruto's hair glowed golden as he activated one for all, and two of locks of the hair on his forehead stood straight up like horns. Golden sparks started to fly out of his entire body, and those sparks turned into golden flames that started to erupt out of various parts of his body. Crack! Naruto's arm visibly broke and shattered. Both his arms and legs cracked and bone under the immense strength that he was putting them under. Toshinori felt his eyes widen his fear for his student, Naruto. Just focus on a punch, the rest can. All Might stopped when Naruto jumped up into the air, and he was already at cloud level. With a grunt of his own, All Might jumped up at full strength after Naruto to save him if he needed it. Even at a high speed, he quickly caught up with Naruto. His student's arms and legs were even more broken. Naruto's eyes glowed brighter red, and his arms and legs instantly healed as his whisker marks grew even thicker as well. The height of his rage could be seen on his face, and Naruto kept using 100% of one for all over the course of his entire body. Naruto threw a punch and dispelled the clouds. The arm he threw a punch was shattering and healing. He went flying backwards from the force of the punch, and All Might followed him. I see, it doesn't matter if he can only handle 40% of the power. With his natural quirk, so long as he is angry enough, he can handle 100%. I figured that he might be able to do this. I didn't think that his willpower and drive would be this strong. All Might chased after Naruto, and in the distance he saw more clouds disappear. He saw Naruto changing direction in the sky, and more clouds vanished. He was a glowing golden blur in the sky. The pain Naruto was going through didn't matter in the slightest, as he focused completely on using one for all and channeling his rage. Moonfish. Naruto was healing faster than his body was breaking. By the time any fractures or shattering happened in his bones, or muscles tore over his body, the damage was already healing. Naruto flew through the sky dispelling clouds using nothing but his punches and kicks. One for all, 100% wrath of the shifter. Naruto shouted at the top of his lungs as he shot down towards the ground with a double kick. He threw light punches and slowed his descent. Before he landed back on the island he started out on, All Might landed on the ground behind him. His eyes widened when he saw Naruto. Naruto's body was visibly destroying and repairing constantly, showing that unlike mere minutes before, Naruto was now truly using 100% of the power over his entire body. His clothes burst and destroyed themselves, but thanks to his clothes being fused with the Kurama AI program that was inside of his blood and DNA, the clothes that got destroyed were constantly repairing themselves as well. Just at a slower rate than the rest of his body, since the clothes weren't nearly as durable as Naruto's body was. The use of the newly acquired quirk the boy had gotten was stable. It was perfect. Naruto's body no longer sparked, and it no longer produced golden flames. Instead, the changes stayed to his hair that glowed and stood on end, his whisker marks that turned into black bars, his eyes that were glowing a bright red and far more menacing than before. His body wore an extremely faint aura of gold instead, and with every breath he took it was like he was breathing visible rage. He was smiling, a hero's grin. I'm coming for you, Moonfish. I will make you regret what you did to Nagato Karinmi, and when that time comes, you and Stain both will regret the day you heard the name Uzumaki. Naruto's grin became wider, and he showed off his canines with his smile. All Might looked at Naruto's hair, and he looked up at his own hair, and saw that when Naruto used one for all he gave similar hair horns to his own, just more shaggy in appearance. He's like me. All Might thought as he looked at Naruto. Naruto was so driven by his goal, and his willpower was so strong, that he was able to bring out the full power of one for all from the very beginning. He was inexperienced with the quirk still, but with over a year of training that was to come, that wasn't going to be a problem. Naruto's quirk was Shift. It allowed Naruto to change anything he holds, or even his own body structure, as he saw fit, cloning himself from strands of hairs, enlarging or shrinking objects with a simple touch, and even elongating. Ever since Naruto's family's deaths, his rage had been cultivating and focusing itself into a single thought. All Might didn't know what that thought was, But Naruto's drive to become a hero to accomplish whatever goal he had set for himself was great enough that he refused to do anything but master One for All with anything less than 100%. Naruto stopped using One for All, and all the changes went back to normal. Moonfish Stain, you will regret being my target, Naruto thought as he bottled up his rage. He needed to cultivate it further. He wasn't ready to fight them quite yet, so this part ends here. Alright, that's it for today's video, guys. Let me know in the comment section how was the story, and also don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I will meet you in another video. Bye bye.